What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Whiskey Talk with Three Dudes. Today we have Bryan Mason with us.
We do have Bryan Mason with us today, and we're having
Thanks for coming.
Johnny Walker Blue Label.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming, man.
I know.
So, any of you guys know about Johnny Walker?
No, I
Bryan.
don't.
No, nothing.
Bryan?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah.
I like I said, I was talking about earlier, but pretty much with Johnny Walker, I would drink a lot of it. It was actually one of the first alcohols I tried was Johnny Walker Red Label, and me and my friends would drink that a lot, and then when I discovered Black Label in a cabinet, I think at one time is when I was like, all right, I like that a little bit better, and then stuck with that most of the time, and then Blue Label, and because of the fact that I like that, I always wanted to try the other ones, the Green Label, the Gold, and everything. So I love Blue Label at all. It's probably my favorite.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Started seeing Platinum Label. I haven't. I've been curious about that one.
Is that the?
Do they have a platinum?
Is that the Rappers Edition one, or
It may be
Hip Hop Artist Edition?
Yeah, it may be.
Endorsed by Pip Puffy.
Yeah, it makes you rap when you drink.
That Puffy juice.
Yeah, I don't know where it compares in terms of price and that sort of thing, but
That's the thing. I've looked it up. I mean, I haven't tried the Platinum yet, but I've had people tell me that you talk to some people, according to what I've researched, Blue Label is the higher one. But I've of course, you talk to another person and they'll tell you that the Platinum is better, and but
I think it depends on everybody's taste, particular taste.
yeah. Cause
Is it different on the color from the platinum on the?
No, and actually, all of them are kind of the same or similar with as far as the color goes. I think they pretty much has to do with the aging process.
Yeah, they're different blends.
Yeah.
Because I've heard some people say that they prefer the Green Label over the Blue Label. So it's like, oh wow, I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah.
So Johnny Walker's Scotch, right?
It's a blended Scotch.
Blended Scotch.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what's the difference between blended Scotch and just
Single.
Well, you're taking you're basically and this is the impressive thing about it. I don't know why this sounds weird, but
just a little bit?
it does, doesn't it? I thought it was just me.
Maybe it's the angle it's at.
Maybe.
We're talking about the mic.
The microphone.
Sorry. I don't know. Check. Oh, maybe we'll replace the cable or something later.
Yeah.
Or I'll just have to speak up. I guess the difference, right, is it instead of being think of it like so with a blended Scotch, you can have multiple distilleries that contribute to your blend. But like a single malt, it's one distillery. It's not necessarily single barrel, I think is the case, but it's not a blend of different distilleries. I guess what I was going to say is, at least for me, it's pretty impressive to have blended whiskeys that Johnny Walker, it's produced there's a lot that's produced, and it remains at least fairly consistent in flavor.
Yeah.
I always thought that was weird. It's like you can have that many. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Okay.
That's a problem.
That's what it is. It was my volume. So you can have that many different whiskeys that contribute to one and keep it consistent. It's weird. That job always impressed me. Like the guy at the distillery that says, yes, this is Johnny Walker Black, or yes, this is Johnny Walker Blue. Like that's
without saying the label or something.
that's pretty. They work there, right? So they know what they're trying to achieve. Like, oh, it needs a little bit more of this. It needs a little bit less of this. Like to me, that just always seemed like it's crazy.
That's why when you go in there, you just try whatever you think it's interesting. And because I remember the second or the third one before this podcast, you were talking about when you go in there and get whiskey, you go and just you don't get nobody's help. You just pick what interests you, and you go from there. You do a little research.
Yeah,
I like to ask questions. I do.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to look at the bottles. I do a little bit of research, but I don't do. I try to kind of keep in mind what I want. I narrow it down to, okay, I'm looking for a bourbon today. And then I just look at kind of like price points. Oh, I've heard of that. Like, oh, I've heard of that distillery, or that sort of thing. Or, oh, I've heard good things about this one. But Yeah, I try not to get too influenced because, I mean, quite honestly, if it was for too much influence, I probably wouldn't have picked up the Japanese whiskey we had in the previous episode. I've heard some people who were like, I'm not really impressed with it. I really like it.
Yeah, you get mixed reviews from different people.
So
how do you choose your whiskeys? Bryan.
Usually, what I'll do is I'll walk into a place and just ask for suggestions.
Okay.
I hang out with quite a few people that drink different things, especially when you go to certain bars. They'll have a big suggestion. Prohibition downtown.
I heard that's a good spot to go try whiskey.
Yeah. If you go there, I actually got turned on to Redbreast there, which is
Irish whiskey.
Yeah, it's really good actually. I believe they were a small distillery, and then they got bought out, but they maintained the same distillery, so that way they would continue to make that product because it was obviously a good product. So
yeah, there's various different ones. There's various different Redbreasts. I've looked into it in terms of, I've seen it, and I always thought like, maybe we'll try that when we're looking for Irish whiskey. I think at least I'm going to try to get away from bourbons for a little bit because we've been kind of bourbon heavy here. And there's too many. There's too much other whiskey to explore to kind of get pigeonholed into bourbon, although it's really good.
No.
And actually today I watched the Whiskey Vault for the first time because I haven't had a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah.
Those guys have a lot of fun.
Yeah, they do. And they have a lot of information they throw at you.
Oh, yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
So we had... the Suntory, the Toki, that's not a bourbon, right? That's just blended Japanese whiskey.
Japanese whiskey, yeah. It's not bourbon.
Okay, so you got Scotch, which is from Scotland, and you got Irish whiskeys and Japanese whiskeys. You got American, right? Which is
even with Scotch, right? Even with Scotch, you have your Speyside whiskeys. You have your Isla whiskey.
Is it pronounced Islay or is it Isla?
Isla, yeah.
Isla.
Isla,
The Y
Isla.
is silent.
Yeah. There's the names. It's incredible on the some of them. It's like, wow, like really, you got that from all those letters? There's some pretty amazing ones. Yeah, there's some pretty amazing ones.
Like the one we had. Which one was the one we thought it was pronounced? What's that one?
Balvenie.
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 Yeah, we had no idea, but it's Balvenie.
We said Balvenie.
Balvenie.
We said Balvenie.
Yeah.
I was like
Balvenie.
Balvenie.
Yeah, there's
Balvenie.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
vain.
crazy.
We all graduated from the same high school, so I think it's okay. We all do that.
None of us here speak Gaelic, unfortunately.
No.
So,
We don't.
yeah, no, not too much Gaelic here.
Not all of us scored like an 8th grade, score in 2nd grade.
We were not
It's
all.
in one subject though. If it was in any other one, it was.
Yeah, would it?
Yeah.
They're like, Mason, this
We'll get there.
is not Asian kid.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Asian kid level math.
I'm sure it's not Mason's son. It's not
Yeah.
my son.
Yeah,
It's my son.
not very Asian.
My son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mason was telling us a story about that because I was telling him I was looking through my 2nd grade pictures and I saw Mason in the class pictures and I was like, oh, Mason and I went to the same school. To be honest, I don't really remember going to school with you 2nd grade.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, oh shit! All right, cool. We went to school together.
Yeah.
And he was telling us that, so if you want to, tell us what.
Yeah, when I was in 2nd grade, I was we'll get into this. It'll go later. But when I was real young, I was a good student. I tried real hard. I kind of had all A's, maybe a B here and there. And one of the areas that I really did well in always, and it was math. And so when I was in 2nd grade, I actually they give you this test, and in 2nd grade I scored at an 8th grade level. When I was in 2nd grade in math, and they thought I cheated, and I remember being devastated because, I'm this little kid at the time, and I'm being accused of cheating on this test, and I was a really good student, and so like to me, I don't know, I remember being real devastated at the fact that they thought I cheated. They actually made me retake the test at lunchtime on my own in a room and to do it again.
No
They're
shit.
watching you like a hawk.
I know.
Yeah.
I sure to have your iPhone on you. Wait, there's no iPhone back then.
Yeah.
No, but I'm surprised because he
One
scored
of those-
8th grade math. Like, what he's gonna have? Like a graphing calculator?
No,
And
one of
then,
those little,
you know,
one of those little,
Oh,
one
that's
of those
right.
watch
I forgot all
calculators.
about
Those
those.
were around.
Yeah,
crazy.
I think it was more like word problems, you know, like because being at that age, word problems are not something you deal with, and so I think the reason why I scored well is because it was I've always done well at word problems, actually better than some of the linear math problems and things like that are in there. But anyway, yeah, I remember I had to retake it, and
So it sounds like your reading comprehension.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
horrible. Abysmal,
Really?
actually. Yeah.
But good when it came to math, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, because if it's so I still have this issue. So the longer the text, the more times I have to go back and read it.
Okay.
And so with math, math problems, when they're word problems, they're a paragraph at most, maybe three or four.
There we go.
You know, and so so that's why I think I did well. But my reading comprehension is horrible. I mean, even now, I make sure I dedicate. If I have to read something and know it, I will do 50 times I think what a normal person does just to overcompensate. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So you're a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. So what made you become a lawyer?
Esquire.
Man, so I mean, the what made me choose law was because I really wanted to go into economics. We were talking about it earlier, but I am an economics nerd. I love economics.
Yeah.
And so when I finished my bachelor's degree, I realized it was a 5-year program full time to go get a doctorate in economics, and I was like, oh, man, that's really, I didn't really want to do that, and I had, it took me forever to get through just to get my bachelor's degree. It took me 6 years, whereas obviously most people it takes them 4 years. But I worked full time too. School was always secondary to me anyway.
Yeah.
And so it was a 5-year program, and I was kind of thinking, well, maybe I can go to law school because it's only a 3-year program.
Yeah.
And so I actually took a stab at going into economics first. And so what I ended up doing after I graduated, I went back to RCC because I initially started there at RCC, but I went back I had to take Calculus 3 as a prerequisite. And I was in there for 2 weeks, and I was just sitting there, and I just was like,
Nope.
there's no way I'm doing this. Yeah. So I remember I turned in my homework, and I'm sitting there waiting for class to start, and I just got up, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And so I just walked out, dropped the class. At this time I don't know if you can still do this or not, but I dropped the class over the phone, basically, as I was walking to the parking lot at the time, and then was like, I'm going to go to law school. That's pretty much that's how it all started. Yeah, that's that's why I chose that. Yeah.
So
that's
I mean, I would imagine that had to you had to have given it some thought previously to go to law school.
Yeah.
I mean, some people would have been like, pretty lost at that point, because it's one of those things. It's like you think you're going to do well at one point, and I mean, geez, Calculus 3 as a prereq.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You would have had to have gone farther in those 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a year's worth of prerequisites. If I would have done it, I would have had to take that and theoretical math in order to get
shit.
into it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. I had thought about it, going beforehand. One of the things that me and my oldest brother, I don't know if Peanut knows him, but me and my oldest brother, we talk about this, that we just had this fear of struggling, in life.
Right.
And so as a part of that, education was a big part of it, even though neither of us really put an emphasis on it growing up. And once we found out there were girls. And so that basically took it really devastating. It's really devastating to my education.
Yeah, and the funny thing is my wife went to school with your older brother.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and then she ended up graduating from that program, and now she's teaching that program.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So small world.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made me think about it was I always had this thing in the back of my head, like, even though school was secondary, because I was a horrible student once I hit 8th grade. I was introduced to parties and girls and all that stuff. And like I said, that, and then once I think my first semester in high school or first half of high school, I still was hanging on a little bit, and then it just went downhill. Yeah. And so, I started off in RCC, and in 2nd grade, I scored high in math, but when I went and did the entrance exam for RCC in English, I scored in the lowest English. Oh wow! Really? I was in there. I was probably one of like maybe 10 kids in the class that spoke English as a first, as first language. Yeah, as a first language, or even just in a way that you could hold a conversation. And it was part of it is because I took it when I was in high school and I really didn't care. Yeah. And but B, I just really didn't focus on any of that stuff until
because you wanted to go and party or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe when you were at that age, you want to party. I remember 8th grade is when I started. Like,
well, that's the thing is in 8th grade you don't really think about like, oh, I should take this seriously because I might need this someday. Yeah, that's definitely not in most people's plans.
Yeah, and some of the math you learn, like I haven't used algebra in forever. I think the highest math I got into was geometry, maybe.
Yeah. I still use geometry from time to time.
Geometry was fun. I liked it because we would draw in there sometimes. Use math to make art. I was I like art. So.
Geometry is a good math. Statistics is another math that I think they should push. I don't know. I think when they're pushing algebra and all of these things, even though statistics has a part of that, but to me, statistics is very simplistic, but you can use it in the real world when you're actually trying to figure out stuff.
See, when I would hear statistics, I would cringe. It sounded boring to me, but now that you say that,
well, you know what the interesting thing was is that we actually, at least I remember when I was in, I want to say it was probably around 8th grade. Our math teacher was known as a teacher that was pretty difficult. Yeah. But she actually made learning math fun in that she actually taught us with baseball cards. Like probability of a player. Like she taught us how to graph the guy's like statistics and what the probability of him would be if he went at bat 3 times. Would he hit? Would he strike out?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So it's one of those things. It's like it engages your mind in terms of like, oh, this is practical. Like I can use this.
I can use this at the casino.
Obviously, I didn't pay that good attention because I'm terrible at the casino.
And I bet you made you want to figure out like when you're watching a baseball game or something when they put the numbers on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I'm pretty much the opposite of that. Like I've had English. I did it pretty well in English, but my math is terrible. Yeah, I've always had kind of struggled with that. Yeah. Biology I did pretty well in that as well.
So Rebecca said calculus is fun and statistics are so important. I took it in high school and in college. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know how is calculus fun? I mean, did you take calculus?
Yeah, I took calculus. It's no, it's not fun at all.
Even if you're good at it.
Yeah. I really wasn't. I mean, really when I hit. And this is another thing too, is that I did very well in
we got a creaking door. Oh, we have another guest here.
We got another guest.
So Eddie's daughter came to say hi.
Yeah, but I with math, I really was reaching my peak in math when I started hitting calculus, because even trigonometry, I would always find a way around. Like if the professor, or even when I was in high school, if the teacher gave me an equation on how to figure something out, I would try to do it a different way, and it would always take me longer.
Because you really kind of fumble your way through it, right?
Exactly. And so that's the problem, is once you start to hit calculus, if you're doing that, you need some of those core equations and functions to be able to figure things out.
To get to the more advanced math.
Right. And, and so that was another reason why me sitting in that class, when I was like, I'm done.
I'm done with this shit.
I'm out. Yeah.
Peace.
But English was horrible, man. I started, because when I started in that low level, I had to take I think at least double, if not triple, the amount of English classes that most people take.
Yeah.
So what type of law do you do?
So I do civil litigation and I do estate planning as probably. So civil litigation is real broad. It pretty much encompasses, from the things that people tend to come in contact with, is family law. I don't really do family law, criminal, even though both of those I have dabbled in a little bit.
Yeah.
When you got a friend or family or whatever that has
You'll
trouble,
help 'em
they
out.
want help. Yeah. So, and then bankruptcy. But pretty much, if people are suing another person, I'm involved in that. So I'm either on the plaintiff side, which is you're suing, or defense, and you're defending.
I know last time we talked, because we were talking on the wedding, and you were saying that you like to hear their case first before you tell them, okay, yeah, you have something or you don't, right?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm still learning this, because
These dogs are going crazy.
I know.
sorry.
They're trying to be in the podcast.
yeah, I'm still learning this too, is because when somebody comes in to talk about a problem that they have. You have to be able to decipher what's important, and what really applies to the law. So this is why you see attorneys that, when they practice in one area, is because you then have to go out and do research, and reading comprehension is big in that. But you have to go out and research things, and so if you practice in one area of law, or two areas at most, you're gonna know the core things a lot better.
Right.
I can tell you this: you could walk in with any case, and that attorney, even if they practice in that area of law, are still going to have to go out and research, because every case is different, and you're trying to find the nuances of things.
And then you guys go back to like old cases, right? And to learn from it and stuff. Yeah.
That
So
precedence.
I know.
I like to watch that one show, Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah, I like that show too.
It's a pretty dope show. So I see all the work and shit you got to go through. Like Eddie said, go back to old cases and see
and
what
then
the outcome was, and you got to use that case as an example towards your argument. Like, well, in the case of yada yada versus yada yada, well, this and that. And and having those cases are big too, especially when you're in the courtroom and the person next to you that you're going against cites a case, and you're like, you better know that.
What's going on?
Somebody's getting murdered out there.
Hold on a sec.
The heck?
Think probably kids having fun or what?
It sounds like it. Can you close the garage a bit?
Yeah, let's close it a bit.
Here, let me turn this down, because it's gonna get real loud.
Yeah, it is.
Turn this down.
There we go.
All
All right, we're good. So Nancy says hi, Mason. It's the Lenores, and you're talking at my wedding, LOL. And tell the dog to shut up. Which Nancy, we tried.
I know there's some kids.
We don't
that are
speak
playing
their
around.
language.
We don't speak their language. We barely speak English. Well, Mason barely even speaks English.
Oh,
Barely.
snap.
It's taken, yeah. I know where to place a comma because of that class. I can tell you. Yeah.
It's a comma, not a coma.
Yeah, so I mean, I imagine that, wow, it's got to be extra challenging, right? I mean, your job pretty much depends on reading comprehension and practicing that all day, every day. Not just the reading comprehension part, but just like retaining it and being able to reference different, like was mentioned, different cases and whatnot.
And that's another thing too, is deciphering cases, like knowing the case itself, as far as how, because obviously there's even Supreme Court cases that may go against your case,
right?
But you have to be able to, where you try to decipher those is well, this case involved these different facts,
right? All the nuances of the case that led to that verdict, right?
And so you're basically trying to attack the case, and even though it may be spot on, you want to be able to say, well, that case didn't apply because it involved a German Shepherd, and this involves a Cocker Spaniel,
right?
And even though we're talking about a dog here, the difference is that German Shepherd is bred for certain things, Cocker Spaniel's not.
And then that's the thing, is then you have to go forth and prove each one. Yeah. So you have to so it kind of just forks out from there. It's like, oh, I found this difference. Now I got to split off and learn the difference between these two things.
Yeah.
And then that is, that can lead to a lot of crazy
It's a lot of
places.
research.
I know.
It is.
It's almost like science.
Yeah, and that's the hard part too. And that's what happens with attorneys when they stick into one area law. Is you spend a lot less time in the law library researching, reading cases, and
Right.
or if you got the money, you pay for the software, which is crazy expensive to take what's in the law library and bring it into your
Is
office.
that
Wow.
like a monthly thing you got to pay, or is it like a yearly thing?
Unfortunately, everything is a monthly now.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we live in like what is it, Microsoft 360 or whatever it is, right? So everything's a monthly subscription, which is debilitating to a law office.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Well,
That's
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, oh, we could in the past we sell you this book, but now you have the
Yeah.
book forever. The downside is it's not updated.
Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So and then they say,
Wow.
okay, well now we have this thing that gets updated yearly,
it's a new edition.
and it's such a and now it's like, oh, it gets updated monthly.
Yeah.
So here pretty soon you'll be paying weekly and daily.
Yeah,
And at that point, you'll be homeless.
Yeah. Like I bought a book the other day, and it was literally just on landlord tenant, and it's $900
Wow.
for that
Wow.
one book. But the thing is that book will get updated, and so I have
Yeah.
to buy those updates. I have to
Shit.
continue on to
Wow.
stay up. It's expensive.
So in terms of how that goes, like, is it just like you buy basically the updates? Like, is it, or
Yeah.
you're not buying the $900 book? You're buying maybe the $200 update to it.
So what they'll do is they'll sell you a binder that has, they call it loose leaf, but it's a binder, and then so as new stuff comes out,
You can just add it. and
you add
take
it
out.
to it, yeah. But you're still paying a couple
So-
$100 for those
Right.
add-ins, you know.
So how do you know when to go to what page to go and look? Or do they have like specific? Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's the thing, is it's kind of like being. So when you're first starting out, it's a scavenger hunt, because when you come out of law school, the basics of pretty much most areas of law. You don't know intellectual property, because that's a separate area, but they try to teach you a little bit of things that will. So when somebody comes into your office, you need to be able to spot. You have a contract issue here. You have a constitutional issue. You have whatever it may be. So you need to be able to refer that person out to another attorney, and be able to spot the issues of which they have, and then. But the good thing is, if somebody comes in your office and is an area that you do practice in, you're able to say, okay, well, I know this, and these are the legal issues here.
Right.
And so then you start researching those legal issues that pertain to that specific thing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty common that somebody comes in with a case, and you'll go, okay, this is the issue. And then you'll go and research that issue, and then it like you said, it'll take you down a rabbit hole, and you'll start going down and think, well, maybe my case is different than what I thought at the time. So, it's pretty crazy.
So, do you have to take continuing education as well, like with any other profession, like doctors or whatever?
Yeah, I would imagine it's not. I mean,
Yeah,
that stuff
'cause it
gets
always
updated,
changing,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do continuing education. You have to do with most licenses that you have, right?
Yeah.
You have to do a certain number of hours. So like I have to have 25 hours of continuing education that are due in February and this coming year. And so, but one of the things that's really interesting is that one of the things that they push is substance abuse classes for attorneys. And it's
Is that pretty rampant amongst?
Very, from what I understand, it's the highest industry, I guess, of practice for where there's substance abuse is a problem is in the area of law, because people. I was talking to an attorney that's been practicing for 30 years, and he basically says he does not touch a drink. He just won't even.
Because he went too far the other way.
He said,
or it's just too tempting.
He said that when he started off, he was in a few different firms, and he just noticed that all the attorneys were just every Friday or whatever it was, they're going out drinking, and so his thing is working out, and he goes for a run every lunch,
Right.
as a way to kind of
Healthy alternative.
Yeah, which is obviously better than probably.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's so that's one of the things you have to do. You have to continue education, but then you can reach levels of expert. So you don't have you have to take separate tests and things like that, and take additional courses to be considered an expert. Like if you want to be an expert in family law, you can be an expert in family law or bankruptcy and things like that. So.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Substance abuse. That trips me out. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't and it doesn't.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, you got
hours
you got long hours. You've got a lot of research. I mean, that and I mean, obviously we know that some lawyers can do pretty well for themselves.
Yeah.
So then the influence is, or the temptation is there to kind of live the whole rock star, lifestyle if that's their thing.
Yeah.
And when you make a pretty decent living, okay. Then yeah, I could see where that would be pretty tempting.
Oh yeah, one of the things we have to talk about. This is another issue we haven't talked about. Is my vision as another problem.
Oh, that's what I want.
We'll get into that eventually, but or whenever. But
yeah, I mean, how does that? I mean, yeah, that's a good point. I remember we discussed it briefly. I guess when we were talking about it, about having you on the podcast. But I mean, how long have you had issues with that, or what sort of issues?
So I basically found out in 2014. I was in the middle of law school, and I found out I had detached retinas in both eyes. And so what ended up happening was I ended up over 2 years. I had 13 surgeries.
Wow.
And so so that basically it changed a big course on really my whole outlook on how I was going to practice, what I was going to do, and just life in general. I don't drive. I take Uber and Lyft everywhere, which I'm realizing is actually pretty cheap relative.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. I mean, it's plus it saves you time. Really. I mean,
it's convenient. I think that's what Gary Vee was talking about. Why Lyft and Uber's so popular. It's the fact that it's convenient, saves you time, and time's something that's very valuable.
Yeah, it's very valuable.
Yeah. Like if you're in like especially downtown Riverside. So my office is in downtown Riverside, and parking is horrible. And so you have to pay for you get permits downtown that to use, but when I go, like if I go down to the courthouse or things like that, I have to pay for parking and some metered parking a lot of times. I would have to. Most attorneys do, and in my case, they just drop me off at the courthouse and I get out and go do what I got to do. But if I was in LA, if I'm in LA or if I go to Orange County, same thing. You have to pay for parking, and so if you're paying $10 every time,
it amounts after a while.
Yeah. So it saves me money. It ranges, but like if I stay local around Riverside, I spend about $400 to $450 a month in Uber and Lyft. And then if I go to Orange County, because I have cases in Orange County or LA, if I'm going out there, it's about $600, $650 a month.
Now, is that a tax write-off for you?
So it is a tax write-off. It as long as it's for business purpose, it has to be business related and everything else. So
you have to connect everything, right? You have to like get your case with the invoice.
You keep track of all that, so that way you can say, okay, on this day I went.
You're a bookkeeper and you're attorney.
So being self-employed, that's a big part of it. So I don't work for a firm, and so that's another thing. So you're juggling a business aspect and getting that.
I was just gonna ask you that, whether you have your own firm or you work through a firm.
Yeah. So I when I pass the bar, everybody who takes the bar assumes they failed. And so it's just it's a horrible test.
How many questions is in that test?
So it's so they just changed it. But when I took it, the format before is there are 8 essay questions that you take, and then there's 200 multiple choice.
Wow.
So they the essay questions are long. They're 3 hours each. It's 3 hours for 3 essays. So and then you go the second half. It is 3 hours, and then for the multiple choice, you get 3 hours for 100 choice, and then you go to lunch, and then you come back, and it's another 3 hours.
8 hours.
It's 6 hours of testing each day.
Wow.
And so they spread it out over 3 days, 3-day exam. They've gone down to a 2-day exam recently, and they've taken out some of the essays.
Yeah, I've heard of that. They changed the test because too many people were failing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I took it, it was a 43% pass rate.
Yeah.
Wow. 43%.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I could see then why you would assume that you failed, because, you have that many people that it's like, well, yeah that's crazy.
And
something wrong with the test.
And it's essay. The essays are the crux of it, where you're looking at it.
When you say essay, you're talking about not cholos, right?
I'm sure, dude. He went to Rubidoux. He's familiar.
That part helped me actually. Yeah, I just.
all right.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. I just started writing down everybody I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the hard part is the essays, because you don't know. You never cover. You'll never be able to cover every issue in the essay, and you're timed. And so your goal is to put as much down on the page, spot the issues, analyze it correctly, or as best as you can, not even correctly, but as best as you can, and come up with an argument that is coherent with the time pressure. So.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, and then, my thing about those is like, well, how do you grade those? Like, at least a multiple choice, right?
Yeah,
that's easy.
essays,
you either get that wrong or you get that right. But the essay portion is very subjective, I would imagine.
So they try to take it out of it. Of course, nobody really knows for sure how the process works. There's actually been tons of lawsuits, and there's actually the Supreme Court. I've heard this. I don't know if this is the case, but now the thing is once you pass, you're like, I'm done.
You're good. No.
You don't have to take it again.
One and done.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's a good thing, because speaking of Microsoft, they make you recertify now. There's certain certifications that used to be that way, where you would take it and you would say, yeah, you're competent, you have this, and then they've changed it where they're like, no, you have to recertify now. So I don't imagine that in that type of field it would
Don't
be...
ever suggest that in the law.
Scratch that.
Yeah.
Strike it from the books.
No, that would that sounds like it would not be very would not go over very well.
No, and I was very fortunate in the sense that I look at my vision issues being a huge blessing. I in the sense that it basically put me in a position where, because of my vision, I wasn't working at the time, whereas I normally would have worked full time, because I started working at 17 and I worked full time. I remember I know this is going on a podcast, but I would check myself out of school and I would go deliver pizza to the office at Rubidoux, to the people that I just checked myself out of school because they said I had a doctor's appointment or whatever,
Right.
And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I worked full time. I worked full time pretty much once I started working. Legally speaking, I wasn't working full time in high school, but the truth is I was putting in a ton of hours at least at that age. And then once I stepped out, it was just school was always on the back burner. Yeah. So, but what was fortunate was I was working, and at the time I was driving to Orange County and working full time, more than 40 plus hours, and then I'd go to law school at night. And then once I had my vision issues, it stepped me out. I wasn't able to do my job. I mean, because the recovery process is horrible. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was I was off of work, and then they asked me, I got a letter like, you need to return back by this date or you're done. And so I couldn't go back to work. Yeah. I was still having significant vision issues and everything else. And fortunately, I had saved enough money that me and my family were able to work it out to where we just, we're going to live off of savings and make it. And so I studied for the bar. I studied 7 days a week, 10 hours a day for almost 3 months. It was just shy of 3 months straight. Wow. And I mean religiously. I woke up in the morning at 8 o'clock and I wouldn't finish until 7.
I would almost imagine that's due to your vision issue, right? I mean, because because you knew like, hey, I struggle with my reading comprehension, So in reality, I mean, that actually ended up helping you out because you could have blown it off. You could have said, "Oh, well, I'm good," or "Oh, I'll just read and get distracted," or "Oh, I'll put it off, start a little bit later today." Yeah, so that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was just pretty cool. I mean, I like I said, I would have been working full time at the time. There's no way I would have done it, and so I basically put all my eggs in one basket and was like, I have to pass this time. There's no option.
There's no other option.
Yeah. So
I mean that's a good mentality to have. I mean, because most people are like, shit, I can't. My eyes aren't working right now. Some people will get down on themselves and not want to do shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is,
they find the
I
excuse
mean,
or
you
something.
could go both ways, right?
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier to just say, well, I'll just wait till my eyes get better. And what if they don't?
What pushed me more to do the 7 days was my vision, and I think that the amount of time I did was a lot of because of my vision. But I talking to people who studied for the bar that had taken it multiple times, the average is like 2.5 times that people have to take it. So by the third time they pass on average. And so I talked to people that had passed, and they said, listen, you need to study 5 days a week, treat it like a job, study 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. I was like, okay, so that's what I expected I needed to do. And then I talked to 2 guys who passed the first time, and they said, no, you need to study 7 days a week. And because if you don't, and so I was like, well, okay, if I'm going to pass
you're
the
a
first
dreaming
time.
law, huh?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
That's your life.
It's
it is.
painful.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You have to.
It's painful. Yeah.
So I don't know if you had mentioned. I mean, how did you injure your eyes? Was it? Because I know you played football, right? Was it because of football-related injuries? Or?
Yeah, they think that's why. They're really not sure exactly what I've been told is it's kind of vague in the sense that they think it had a result of me playing football because I started playing football when I was 8 years old and just too many impacts to the head, which is probably the reason why I suck at
reading comprehension.
Reading comprehension.
Yeah.
But that was a big reason. They said that the detachments had been there for a long time, and so I found out then, and the reason why that they had been there so long is that I actually assist on my left eye in the pocket where the detachment was because of that. So it was I don't know. It couldn't come at a better time in my life, as far as to find out, because if it had happened when I was 23, I probably would have just gone through the surgeries and then went about my life and probably would have failed the bar multiple times and everything else. I wouldn't have been able to dedicate that time into doing it to pass.
Right.
So
I mean, as far as that goes, even now, I mean, I would imagine that you're running your own business, as what they say is, for the business owner, the 40-hour work week, just that would be a dream, right? So I would assume that you probably keep that same, maybe not 7 days a week, but probably still kind of a high pace of if you're not actually in cases, you're also still studying for upcoming cases or the same case you're working on.
It's constant. It's even it's ebbs and flows, I should say. It's ebbs and flows like any business. You send off the ball and wait for the ball to come back when your work has to hit, so with cases it's kind of like juggling. It's kind of like juggling in the sense where you throw one ball up and that ball's eventually going to come down and you got to do more work. And so you have multiple cases that you're taking care of and just trying to stay up on top of them, research, all of that.
So how many cases typically do you work at one time?
So an average attorney caseload is between 40 and 50 cases at a time.
Wow.
I really can't say the exact number, but it's basically, like I said, it's pretty good. I passed the bar in January, and one of the things I was very fearful of was getting work, and especially because you read the job market. I don't know if I'm sure everybody has heard this at some point, that there's a ton of attorneys in California, but there's way too many attorneys. And that's all I read. And so getting into it, I just figured, man, I'm going to struggle. And what I found is the exact opposite. There's too many people with problems. Is really what it is.
Well, with the population density, I mean, there's bound to be plenty of work.
And it's kind of getting to the point where either one of two things are going to happen. Either people are you're going to be asking people, it's going to be a common thing, I think, where are you suing somebody or being sued, or you're coming out of a lawsuit or you're going into one. It's just that constant. For some reason, we just live in a very litigious area of being in California, and because of the number of people, and I grew up here, word of mouth is huge. I do zero advertising.
That's what I was going to ask you next. If you do any advertising,
nothing. I haven't had time to. I've talked to marketers. I've looked at it. I haven't had time to actually sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do this advertising to target this market. It's pretty much I've talked to people, and I have people that I want to do marketing with. I just haven't had the time to because of the amount of work.
You do 50 cases or around there or whatever number. It's sort of overwhelming. It's crazy.
And then also I'd imagine that, following some of the bigger cases that end up in the circuit courts and whatnot, there's long periods of time where there's almost seems like the case isn't moving at all. I would imagine to a smaller scale, some of that happens as well in civil law, where you're studying something and then it just something comes up and just gets put on the back burner, and another case comes up and it's the timeline on that gets moved up and. Wow, that's a lot of.
I know. How do you distinguish in your head, like, oh, this is this guy, or
a lot of notes, I would imagine.
Record keeping, organization. So they have software that helps you. I actually use a lot of Google Calendar because I'm on the move. I actually work. I work with several other attorneys because when I was starting out, that was a big way that I wanted to start my business was not paying for advertising. Actually, I wanted to have business come to me, and so the first thing I did is I started trying to connect with other practicing attorneys and saying, listen, if you got cases, I'll split them with you. And if it's an area of law that I practice in and you don't practice in an area, I'll give you a 50-50 split. We'll work on it. And so that has really helped me out. I have an attorney that calls me probably 3 days a week with a potential case, and I couldn't pay for that advertising. If I could be forking out thousands and thousands of dollars a month in order to get my phone to ring 3 times a week. I
find word of mouth is like the best.
It's the best
kind of advertising.
So we have a question in terms of. So that's the thing is, I guess is there like is it similar to the medical field where there's like fields of study, or is it just like you study kind of
it's like a broad
to get your competency, and then you kind of like settle into what you like, or how does that work?
So when you come into law school, they teach you a little bit of everything, and then so you get a broad perspective of everything, and a big reason for that is you need to be able to identify problems. And so if you don't practice in that area, you need to be able to send them to somebody who does, or recognize or just recognize different areas. So the way it works is you come out and you pretty much have a license to do almost anything. I mean, there's in law there's a limited areas where you can't do it, but
you get certified to do it if you wanted to. It's like
so you would go take other classes, pass a separate bar, and all that. So as far as specialty, like when you're in medical field, you there's the general practice, like you go to your normal doctor.
Right.
That's kind of what most attorneys are initially, as far as you're a general practitioner, and then what happens is you end up developing a niche. And say, okay, I'm only going to practice in the area. There's a guy, and I'm going to mention him just because of the fact that and I see him in court all the time. His name is Barry O'Connor. The guy does landlord-tenant law all day long. He's constantly in court, and I told him, when you die or when you stop practicing, I'm taking over that area of law.
Right.
Is because
he's the guy. Because he's the guy.
He is the guy. Yeah. Because when he stops practicing, there's a huge void to fill.
Right. Right.
And so it's because you develop that is what it is. So that's why when you but one of the things you also see is like these attorneys that say, well, I only do injury, or I only do family law, or I only do whatever. what they're more looking at is they're more focusing on their advertising of what their key area is.
Well, it's easier to advertise that way. Yeah.
Yeah. If you do broader, then it's more expensive. 'Cause
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you're able to narrow your marketing, and then what happens is people come to you. Obviously, they have other problems, and if it's something that you can handle, you'll handle it. Or if you have enough business coming in the door, in that one area, then you'll say, nope, go to this person, you'll refer it, and you'll get a referral kickback, basically. So
that's interesting.
It sounds like it's a tight-knit community that lawyers have, where you guys network amongst each other.
In Riverside, yeah. If you go to Orange County or LA, I
would imagine that's a lot more cutthroat, probably.
Oh, it's brutal. I was talking with an attorney the other day on the phone.
I'm referring anything, taking it all.
Well, he called. I'm sitting in an office, and he calls in. He just wanted to make sure, that we were okay with the fires, that had been going on. Right. And it's funny because, and he's from LA, and I told him, I said, listen, you can't be asking me if I'm okay. You're in LA, man. I'm gonna think you have a heart. Basically,
dude, you care? That's not allowed.
What law school did you go to?
Yeah. It's one of those things that you end up in Riverside. It still is sort of a very tight knit community because there isn't a ton of lawyers. Mm-hmm. It still has that small town sort of feel within the legal community. Yeah. But when you go outside of and you go to Orange County, LA, San Diego, it's completely different. The judges, I'll never see an attorney ever again. I'll go against him once in LA and I'll never see him again. If I'm in Riverside, I guarantee you I'll see that attorney again, probably next week.
Wow.
It's just that tight knit. And you'll have Orange County attorneys that come out or LA attorneys that come out. And what's funny is, the reason why I mention this is because I was in court one time and I'm citing law to the judge. And the judge turns to the other attorney because he just knows him. This is what he does and this is his area of law. I'm citing the area of law and citing my case, and he turns to the other attorney and says, "What does the law say regarding this?" And I'm thinking, how is this fair?
What?
How is this fair in this case? I'm telling you what the law is, and then he turns to the guy who's
to confirm
basically that what I'm saying is valid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but in LA that wouldn't happen. The judge has like I said earlier, is that the judge may not recognize attorneys because there's so many.
They see so many of them, there would be no relationship there. It would just be like, oh, you're just another guy that's going to come in and wow, that's pretty crazy.
It's a revolving door.
Yeah, it would have to be. I would imagine.
But I like being in Riverside. I will say that if I live here and I'm very fortunate in the sense that I talk to attorneys that are in those markets. And they say that they would rather have the Riverside or San Bernardino or something like that has a smaller legal community. Yeah. Because you can pick up the phone in Riverside or San Bernardino, even if I don't know that attorney, I could pick up the phone and say, hey, I know the deadline is this date, but I need an extra 5 days. And no problem. It's totally fine. Wow. Take your extra 5 days. And you say thanks, get off the phone. And the reality is there's going to be a time when that attorney needs help. But if I do that to another attorney that's out of the area,
you need 5 days. Cool. We're moving it to 4.
No, they won't extend it.
See you there tomorrow.
A lot of them won't. Some do, but a lot of them won't. And the reason is because there's not that sense of community where they know they're not likely going to see you again, and they're not likely going to need that extension.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I guess from that perspective, that's a cool thing to have. Yeah.
I would say so. I kind of need a refill here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so how did you kind of settle on civil law and what you do now? Is it just kind of I mean, is that where you want to be? Do you want to move somewhere else, or?
I want to be in civil. The reason why I said earlier I try to stay away from family law or criminal is because of the emotion aspect that comes involved. Every case has emotion, but when you're fighting over kids or criminals, another one that is you're dealing with some serious consequences that are going to impact people's lives. Yeah. And so what you kind of want is you do want a client where rationality comes in to play. You know, this especially so in civil, it's a lot of dollars and cents, and so if you're going to pay an attorney, say $15,000-$20,000 to get a result potentially, and say you have a good case, and you say, listen, there's no cases 100%, but if you have a case that you say, listen, we're fighting over, say $30,000, but to get that result, it's going to cost you 20.
Is it really worth the 10 grand?
Right.
Yeah.
So what will happen is you'll go to your client and say, listen, in order for us to get there, this is what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
So you could settle and take less, and you cut your losses, almost not cut your losses, but you're going to achieve the same result ultimately in the end. And so that aspect of it makes civil a little more tolerable. You still have clients that are completely don't take that into play, and it's very principle based. And I don't want to say principle based because there is real, I guess you could say, injustice that comes out of civil. And so in those cases, you'll have times where, you know, people are willing to say, okay, well, I'm willing to spend the money. But when you're talking about taking away, you know, 50-50 custody or getting custody away on kids, especially in family law, this is another thing is that I had a professor tell me this one time. He said, at least one of the in the divorce, at least one of them is going to be treat this as an opportunity to get back at the other person.
Oh yeah,
That's usually
I
very
can see
common.
that.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. And so the problem is you may have the rational client who's like, I just want to be done with this. Let's get over and move on. The problem is once that other spouse that is looking to divide up has that mentality, your client is automatically going to put up a wall.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And say, well, listen, if you're going to be this way, then I'm going to be this way. And so it really changes the dynamic of the process of getting to the ultimate result, which you tend to know what the result is going to be a lot of times when it comes to the law. But then again, I mean, like I said, there are no cases 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're able to advise your client based on what the law is a little bit more in civil and say, listen, the law says this. And
I could see it be kind of frustrating for you too, because you're trying to tell your client this, and they're like, no, I'm paying you, blah blah blah. You need to do this now, and then you're like,
I can imagine
Dude,
there's a lot
like,
of that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
why.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
That's why I like being self-employed, is because I don't have a boss. My boss is the customer, and so if I have a customer who is difficult to deal with, right? We've all worked at jobs where the boss is telling you, just make them happy, or even if the client is saying, I want this, but your boss is telling you, no, we're not doing that.
right.
You have to go through a process that becomes, you're in this dynamic of it makes your job a lot more difficult.
Yeah, you're the middleman, so
Yeah,
to speak.
yeah. So in this case, you know, if I have an irrational client or a client that I don't get along with, I basically go to them and say, you know, I'm sorry, I don't want, you know, we can't do this anymore. I'll be able to break that representation.
Yeah. And how often does that? I mean, how often does it get to that point, and how often do you start off with like, hey, I'm hearing this dude and what he's telling me, and I don't know if I could work with that.
Right.
Yeah. So and this is one thing I'm learning is trusting your gut when it comes to, we've all worked at customer service jobs where
Right.
where you're sitting across for somebody initially and you just get a bad feeling, but yet because of the business aspect or your requirements of your position, you're gonna sign that person up, or you're gonna continue to push on with
You
your
give him the
customer
benefit
service.
of the doubt that he's gonna be
Yeah, one of the things I've learned in the short period of time that I've been practicing is you have to trust your gut right from the beginning, because the client that you are kind of have this weird feeling about is going to be the client that you're going to have a tough conversation with later.
Yeah.
And so most of my clients aren't that way. I will say that is because going back to what I was talking about earlier, is a lot of the people come by referral. So I
There's
like
a relationship, at least
Yeah.
second or third hand.
Yeah. And even though, you know, where I grew up, I think I grew up in an area with, generally speaking, people are really good people, and so I don't have to. I'm able to feel people out a lot more easily in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then, but number two is just be able to have that conversation with them and be a lot more direct with them in the very beginning, and set expectations that
That's interesting. Bringing up. I mean, growing up in Riverside, I mean, you know how people are here. Like you said, I mean, I'm sure if you were to go to like L.A., people are different in L.A.
Their mentality,
than people are here in Riverside. It's a totally different world.
Well, and then it's also the same kind of thing is where if you're dealing with somebody from LA,
pop it over, man. Absolutely.
So if you're dealing if you're dealing from somebody from LA, there's not the expectation that maybe they're from LA. They've moved, but typically people don't move to Riverside, or it's typically like if they're in Riverside, they're from a pretty close area nearby.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's that.
I know a few people that moved to Riverside, and like Chris Markowski, he moved here from Orange County. His wife moved here from Long Beach.
Right, but they from like Southern California as opposed to like from another state to
I see
where people might be, and that's the thing is people are people, but there's small regional nuances and different things that maybe you wouldn't take into account when talking to somebody.
Culture.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the word. See, you're good at English, Brian.
I know.
It's taken me a long time. Trust me. Yeah.
Oh, actually, Larry, I was gonna ask you. You were pretty good at in English in school. Was Spanish your first language?
Yes, it was. I went to school at a time where I learned to read and write in Spanish first.
Yeah.
Nice.
Before we learned to read and write in English.
Yeah, same here.
So
Spanish was my first.
Spanish
language.
was my first language.
And I did fairly well in English. I just hated doing homework. Homework was not my thing.
Yeah.
But tests, I can pass tests like nothing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think the tough part of it was, at least for me, was I was in gate classes in elementary school, and then going to high school, and it's like being taught the stuff that I learned in 5th grade. It got boring.
Yeah.
So bored teenagers, they don't make very good students.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
We do not.
So that was that led for some interesting times. But I mean, aside from work, man, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're a business owner. You're a business owner in a business that requires a lot of time and a lot of work. But I mean, what do you like to do aside from that when you do
Fun
get
times.
some free time?
Yeah, I have 2 kids, so
Nice.
that takes up the majority of my time.
Yeah, that's your free time there.
Yeah, I pretty much my life right now is all centered around my family, and so as far as I take Uber and Lyft everywhere, and like I said before, but I end up having this conversation with people, and they always ask me, "What do you do for fun?" and I don't know. I honestly don't know. I love work. I really do. I'm at a point right now where I actually do like what I do, and it's probably the first time in my life that I actually like what I'm doing.
Wow.
I was in real estate at one time. I did mortgages. I've had every scumbag job ever. I've everything but a used car salesman. I was a telemarketer at one time. Everything,
those.
man.
Eddie and I were too.
Yeah, we were too.
Yeah.
It's a shitty job.
Yeah.
I remember I got out of that.
You got out of there quick, dude.
Yeah, I was like, no.
We used to ditch work, go to Del Taco, eat all day.
Yeah.
Eddie's cousin used to work at Del Taco, so we would just eat for free at Del
Yeah,
Taco.
we would just chill there all day. That was good stuff.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I don't know.
not
I don't know. Free time stuff. I don't know. That's a range.
Well, with 2 kids. I mean, I have 1 kid. She's
Okay.
she's gonna turn 3 in December. So yeah, I can't imagine with 2 kids. How old are your kids?
I have a 2-year-old and a 8 months old.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time.
No. I'm in the
I like
thick
to
of
change
it.
diapers for fun.
Yeah, I'm in the thick of it. Yeah, right.
I clock. I time how fast I get to. I got put it back on. Ready, go.
Yeah.
We just got to the point where Victoria actually went to the bathroom by herself for the first time yesterday.
It's exciting.
So yeah, it was kind of surprising.
Oh,
It's spicy.
that's spicy.
Yeah.
And
I still
smoky.
haven't. Yeah, I still haven't tried it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think I will here in a
It's
little
like a
bit.
black licorice.
You
But yeah,
gotta
we
sit
just
there.
got to that point, and it was interesting. But yeah, once I'd imagine that once you get there, there will be some free time. You're not chasing them around with poopy diapers. And trying to make sure they don't sit in them for too long.
Yeah, me and my wife need some time to go away for a little bit. I think it's part of
everybody.
it.
Yeah,
dude, that's important, man.
That's very important.
It's very important. And I mean, how many kids? Your kid has? I mean, your brother has like 11 kids now. Or how many? So
yeah, he's running a small farm over there. Yeah,
I think he's trying to start his own soccer team.
Yeah. He's got 3 boys, and
wow.
They're a handful, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But they're cool, yeah. And then my other brother, Kyle, he's the middle brother. He's got 2 girls, and I got one of each. I got a boy and a girl.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
more kids sometime soon, or what do you think?
I think we're gonna adopt. I'm going through the vasectomy process right now is what I'm looking at.
Me and you too, both.
Yeah, snip, snip. Yeah,
Snip, snip.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
So I'm beginning that process of finding out. We're gonna adopt. I think is what we want to do. Just that we're as of right now, me and wife have kind of decided
You're done.
We're done as far as having
Your own kids. But
Yeah,
Especially when you have a boy and a girl. I mean, that's perfect.
yeah.
Yes, I mean,
Either way, man. I
one of
think,
each.
Yeah. I think people going into it. I think on the outside, you look at it like, oh, I got one of each. I'm done. The
Right.
truth is, I really wouldn't care if I had two girls, 2 boys, or
Yeah.
boy,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really
'cause
wouldn't.
that was my
love them the
biggest
same. Yeah.
that was my biggest thing when I was asked about it. Like, oh, are you excited? Do you want a boy or girl? It's like, dude, as long as it's a healthy baby,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, pretty much.
that's
Yeah.
all you can hope for.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
we were recently dealing the other day. It kind of sucks because it's, I mean, I would imagine by now you've probably had the experience where you have a kid that's sick and you feel kind of helpless. You're like, man, what do I do?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like we were dealing with the fever the other day, and it was like right before she went to bed. She wasn't comfortable, and we got to struggle with giving her medicine. So,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things, man. You're like, dude, like if it's anything else, like at least from what I do, like that's what I do. I solve problems.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's like, well,
You can't solve-
can't
yeah.
do anything.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to let them write it out. And she felt great the next morning for some reason. So it's kind of
good.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
but-
have this mentality in life, going through everything with my eyes, is that it's gonna be okay no matter what.
Right.
So when
Yeah.
I'm dealing with, I'm definitely the parent that's like, listen, things are fine. Like,
Yeah.
everything's good. Everything's
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah. I mean, nothing. I don't know. I know there's terrible things out there in the world that happen, but
Right.
I just have the stance of, and it'll work out no matter what. It will figure
That's
it out.
true.
you
Yeah,
know?
I think I'm on the same page with that. And when something happens, I'm like, you know what, whatever, and it's gonna
Yeah.
fix itself.
Yeah.
It works. It works out in the
Right.
end.
Yeah.
Just gotta
Yeah.
keep on keeping on.
Yeah, well, that's the
on,
thing
keep
too.
on.
Is as a first time parent, I'm sure, and you probably experienced some of that, where you're like, you kind of, you haven't gotten to the point where you realize that kids are a lot more resilient than you think.
No. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so it's kind of like you kind of just have to sit
Yeah.
back and let things happen at times.
Yeah. I was a claims adjuster actually before, like I said, I was for farmers when I was
Right.
driving out to Orange County, and kids would I'd see these. There's 2 people that will not get injured in an accident.
I know one of them.
A kid,
Oh,
and then the other one is an old person.
I thought it was a drunk.
A drunk is another one. Yeah, well, yeah, we'll say that. Yeah. Although I did have one where there was a head-on collision. Yeah, that was a big one. There was ended up with like broken femurs and stuff like that. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. When you break
But
a femur.
yeah, it's but the old people, and I also think it's part of a generational thing, is that you come across with these old people and they just take their lumps, and
They've been through a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Well, what's a car accident gonna
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
fuck it. Like, I went through the
Yeah.
be? Yeah.
stock market crash from 1920. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, so we're trying the Templeton
That's
rye.
Right.
Templeton rye whiskeys are typically spicy.
They
I-
are spicy.
It's very unique.
It's
This isn't something I've had before, or any rice for that matter. But it is quite.
It's my favorite rye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. I think rice might take a bit of exploring for me.
Yeah, me too.
It's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's good.
It's not what I expected. But at least from what I've known, is like, rice are very spicy. There's, but there's the flavors are there in terms of like, you
Yeah.
think of eating a rye bread. The same, some of the same flavors are there. It's really interesting.
And supposedly this is was Al Capone's favorite or whatnot. But
yeah, I did a little bit of research on it.
Yeah, at least from some of the stuff I've seen is kind of like Templeton's kind of the quintessential rye. For a lot of people, they say that, you know, if you want to try rye, this is the one you start with and kind of go from there.
I guess it started in the 1920s, right? Like when it was going for prohibition, or
well, not this one.
No, not this one, but like
yeah, it's
rye.
during prohibition. I think in Indiana, farmers, you know, they started distilling this to make some extra income, I guess, during that time.
Well, it's the same thing as, you know, like bourbons and I would imagine, yeah, ryes. They were kind of used. Their popularity was like, hey, look, we have all these grains. We're gonna have to do something with them.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's, you know, they worked as forms of currency in a way, you know, which is the really cool aspect about whiskey in American history, where it's kind of like, you know, it served a lot. It served that way for a lot of people. And it served as, you know, oh, well, instead of it going bad, well, let's let it go bad in some barrels.
And make it good.
Yeah.
Let it go so bad it turns good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I enjoy this one. Whenever I go to a bar and ask for a Sazerac or a old fashioned, I ask for, you know, either Templeton rye or.
I could see why, in terms of an old fashioned, some people would say, yeah, you really need a rye. There's a lot of flavor in this, you know, where it is quite different. Whereas in like bourbons, you get kind of almost the same flavors, but like different levels of it.
Different levels.
This
and it
to
lingers
me,
a bit more.
yeah, this is
It's more subtle with the.
It's a lot longer finish. There's more flavors there. The more I don't know. I think ryes are pretty interesting. At least from just trying this one, I think it might be pretty cool to try a few other different.
What do you
ones.
think?
That's really good, actually. Yeah. I'm not a huge. I prefer Scotch in general, and I think it's really good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to venture out different, you know, areas of.
Yeah,
of
well, I
whiskeys.
think if you like scotches, you're into kind of. I mean, what type of scotch do you prefer?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of.
Yeah, so I really I would say, like we brought earlier, I'm a huge fan of anything of the labels in general, but I'd say I'm a Glenlivet's, Glenfiddich is another one I really like.
Yeah, some of the because that's the thing is some people really get into, you know, they try a whiskey and they're like, oh man, because some of them can be pretty polarizing.
Yeah,
you can say, oh, this is, you know, the peated whiskeys in particular, like, oh, this is just too smoky, I'm not a fan. Or some people are just, they go crazy and they say, oh, this is what I like. Like, it's kind of like beer and IPAs and hops, you know, where people it's kind of. Man, I met somebody not too long ago where it's like, oh, you brought beer, oh, you brought IPAs, I don't like them. I was like, what? Not everybody liked IPAs, but I guess not everybody does.
Not everybody does.
Yeah, so
I got tired of them for a while just because they all started tasting the same to me.
I think that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem with is that it's easy to overdo. It's easy to kind of get burnt out on them. Right. And I guess when I talked to him and explained it, and he explained it, it kind of made sense. He said, look, he's like, if I go somewhere and I try an IPA, like it kind of obliterates your palate to like trying anything else.
Right. So definitely don't want to start with that if you're going to go out beer drinking or
it's
trying
like,
stuff out.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't go from drinking an IPA, at least from the way that he explained it, you know, you wouldn't go from drinking an IPA to like trying to do a stout and like trying to pick out like, oh, you know, this is what I like about it. Like that would be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see that. I forget what he had. He had some sort of stout that he had me try. And it was one of those, like, I kind of had to wait a little bit from when I drank the IPA to kind of like space it out and like be able to taste some of the flavors there.
Yeah. I almost want to have that pickled ginger, because
that's
pickled
right.
ginger cleanses your palate. That's
There's
what they
a
have
lot of things that do that, yeah.
Sushi or,
but that is why they have that, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's different stuff to do that as well.
Coffee's a big one. I'll go out and drink, and then if somebody wants to switch it up, I'll say, well, do you guys have any coffee? And even if it's old coffee that's been sitting there, I'll take it, because it what it does is, I don't know, I've noticed that for myself, it takes away anything that's been on my palate at the point, and then I'll switch it up to something else.
Yeah, I've seen people do crackers when trying to go between like different bourbons and stuff. It's like, you know, it's a very familiar flavor. It's something that kind of like, you know, kind of will reset your palate.
Yeah, just cleanse it.
I could see that because I mean, dude, if you go through and you're trying 4 or 5 or 6 different bourbons, I think, and if you go straight by maybe the third one, they all start to taste the same. I imagine. Good, which is good.
The end effect is good.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this tastes great.
Except in the morning.
Yeah. I don't know. I was fine on last Saturday.
With the Toki?
I was too. Yeah, I woke up like I was like, cool.
I woke up. I don't know what it is with me, but I woke up with a slight hangover. I don't know why.
Yeah, I drank a lot of water before I went to bed though, so I
think that's what it was. I
That's
didn't hydrate.
Yeah. And I noticed that's more and more important as we get older.
You get
in my 20s, I didn't know what a hangover was. I never had one. But now it's like there's been times where it's like you have 3 or 4 beers and you wake up the next day and you're like, oh no, I'm not feeling that great.
Like I'm telling you, man, tequila, no more. I've been saying it a lot, but man.
Yeah.
So every time you drink tequila, right? I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
no more.
No. I haven't had tequila in quite a long time just because for me it's the liquor that hits my tongue and it kind of wants to violently come back up immediately. Like it's just
it's like what the fuck are you doing?
Even when somebody's like, oh man, this is a really good tequila, it's like no,
thanks.
I'm good.
Right.
I know the end result. No thank you. So this I did print some pages on Templeton. I guess it's supposed to be the recipe of Alphonse Kirchhoff, but they didn't get it. They couldn't get it as close. They got it as close as it could possible, so they can't call it that recipe itself.
Right.
But this is the closest they can get it to that recipe, which was Al Capone's favorite recipe for Templeton Rye. And actually, at the end of this month, doing some free advertising for these fuckers, but whatever. At the end of this month, they're coming out with
We'll get them to pay. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, we got a lawyer here.
That's true.
So at the end of the month, they're gonna come out with the 10-year. So they had the single batch, or whatever. I guess Larry, you're saying something about there's no certain specifications that specifies that
for small batch,
small batch.
Okay.
Small batch, yes.
Yeah.
They have the 4-year. This is a 6-year, so it's basically the 4-year, just aged 2 years more.
No.
And now they're coming out with the 10-year, and I think that they're only having like 6,000 something bottles. So if you were to pick a bottle up, it's gonna be like a commemorative bottle type thing. So
it's gonna be numberized.
it's gonna be numbered and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so that is one of the funny things about that I've learned about whiskey is you hear, a lot of small batch distilleries, small batch of that particular blend or that sort of thing. But there's no real definition to that term.
Yeah, I've also found whenever it says small batches, it just means expensive.
Of course,
that's another one.
Course.
Too.
Yeah. Small batch means expensive.
It doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's more expensive.
Yeah,
we found that the single barrel whiskeys have been pretty good so far.
So far, they have been.
Like Buffalo Trace, we had Henry
really
McKenna was pretty good.
One of our favorites.
Is one of our favorites.
Yeah, but that's. But that whole and you know what? That's another thing that we might want to explore too is some of the bonded whiskeys that follow that same formula as Henry McKenna, where it's like the thing with Henry McKenna is they have a statement in there that says it's bottled in bond, which means it follows certain laws in terms of how it can be bottled. How long it can be aged. So it has to be aged for a minimum of, I think it's 4 years. It has to be 100 proof, and it has to come from a single barrel. So that, and there might be some other stuff, but those are the gists of like what I remember. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be something interesting to try to explore. Maybe to compare it to some of the other whiskeys that are also bottled in bond.
It's funny how so much information just for like whiskey or scotch or however.
There's a lot to it, man.
It's a lot.
I mean, you've got to think. Yeah, I mean, some of these,
like even like when we were talking about last week, a glass, just a different changing the glass,
of course,
give you a different taste.
What was the name of the glass again?
The Glencairn glasses.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to chase down some a different type of glass for bourbons that are supposed to be really good. But yeah, that's getting a bit nerdy. I tend to do that in terms of like some of the things we get into.
You just nerd out. You just balls to the wall type thing.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I may have, in your field of work, I may have done all right, because it ends up being that way for me a lot of the times. There's a lot of reading and a lot of exploring different things that you learn about and that sort of thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's funny when you get, even if you're not a big reader, if you get a topic
things that
you're
interest
into,
you,
man,
just dive into it and
you spend hours.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing, is in terms of like that's what I struggle with in terms of like reading books. Like that's not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I do spend a lot of time like reading forums or reading articles or blogs and different stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I do spend a lot of time doing,
Yeah.
watching a lot of videos and that sort of thing.
And podcasts.
Yeah, that's
the
another one,
audiobooks I've been listening to a lot.
Have I been listening to
I've
you
been
have.
listening to audiobooks.
What do you listen to right now?
Right now, I'm listening to No More Mr. Nice Guy.
No More Mr. Nice Guy?
That one's a good one.
There's
pretty good.
There's a book I saw that I want to get. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Somebody recommended that.
I want to read that book.
Yeah.
I think I'm already
That'd
there.
be the next one.
Yeah, you are. I think you mastered that.
I think I've been there for quite a long time.
I think you were born with it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, and I have, I have a few people that I've learned from is, and a few different theories. It's like maybe you're born with only a finite amount of fucks, and
Some
you
more than
can't
others.
you can't give them very liberally, because then you'll deplete that number of fucks.
Yeah.
So you have to conserve them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've spent mine already, if that's the case.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I going back to reading comprehension aspect. Yeah. So I actually enjoy reading now. I'm at a point where I read. I still have to read things over and over a couple times. It depends on the subject. If it's pretty heavy, but if it's something light, I can do it. And with books, I'm right now I'm in a book it's written by. I think we're getting somebody leaving right now.
Yeah, it's Eddie's neighbor.
Remember, every Saturday you'll hear. Friday. Sorry.
Every Friday is mother trucker.
But one of the books I'm into right now is a Thomas Sowell book. He's an economist, and so it's a book. It's the quest for cosmic justice is what it's called. It's a really good book.
Sounds cool.
So far, it's pretty good. He's a writer that I look into a lot. But I started off doing a lot of blogs, doing things, and especially because you can get a lot of information quickly.
Right.
It's
Right.
easy to go through, and you can knock through it in 5 minutes or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and I think it's because it's kind of like blogs aren't really like, especially with certain interests, like they're not really like, you get some information and then maybe it's like, oh, well, that bit of information is interesting. Like, I wonder how valid it is. And then you kind of go and search it out and try to corroborate that sort of thing. And it can get pretty interesting.
Yeah. Google has ruined things. I would
Yeah.
say.
It's way too easy. Well, the attention span, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's too easy to end up in weird places on the internet where you'd never thought you'd end up.
Yeah. And people Google things like WebMD is a good example of this. Is that you can go on there and
self-diagnose.
Yeah. Which you
I'm gonna lose my nut. No, I'm sorry.
But the diagnosis is usually you're gonna die.
Yeah.
I mean,
which
because
is always a good one. If you're gonna get a diagnosis.
Well, I mean, I mean, in the very base of it, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
But it's not like
they're never wrong.
Yeah. So I guess that's a good field to be in. The web diagnosis is just you're gonna die.
Yeah.
How soon? Well, I don't know, but that's not the question everybody asks.
Yeah. And with law, it's the same thing. You can Google pretty much anything. The problem is knowing what is the right thing or what. Yeah, I mean, like anything, you can any part of your life you can Google it. The problem is I will tell you this: like if you're Googling stuff online, I would say probably 90% of what you're getting on Google is probably wrong, in relative to your individual case.
Right.
Because it's
confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you keep exploring the parts where it says like, well, yes, you have a positive outcome here. And then you're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
You know, so you can Google yourself to not dying in this case.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're basically gonna search and just listen and
your search terms
whatever you want to hear, or whatever you want the outcome to be. You don't want to see what the negative part of what might happen.
You're like, oh, they're telling me I have no case and that I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
well, they've got to be wrong.
They're wrong.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't apply. Or that. Yeah.
My favorite source for information is Alex Jones and Wikipedia. And,
those are very reliable.
Very reliable.
Yeah.
The gay frogs and
the gay frogs. The frogs gay, man.
Gay frog.
Yeah, you didn't know that, dude? The Florida is turning the frogs gay.
Turn the frogs gay.
Wait, they ribbit the wrong way, or what's going on?
Yeah, dude.
I don't know, dude.
They don't
ribbit.
ribbit.
Wow. I don't know, man. I find it's funny because it's like I think so I find Alex Jones interesting in that, like, I don't listen to him often, but I can do it. Like when I get on a kick, like I'll do it just because it's entertaining.
It is entertaining.
But the thing is like, but there's that disconnect, right? Where it's like, I know this is entertaining and that this guy's just being outrageous because he's playing a character. But the sad part is that the realization isn't there for a lot of people.
No.
They think like, no, this dude is 100% like...
He's so right.
Yeah.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like the whole,
the earth is flat?
There's death camps.
I mean...
I love the flat earth guys.
Flat earth theory. So, funny story. I think, Larry, you said you know somebody that knows somebody?
Yes. I know somebody that knows... probably the flat earth guy.
The expert.
One of the, and it's funny because today I was driving home and I saw that there's actually a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu right by my work. And then I was like, I thought about it. I was like, oh, Eddie Bravo.
EBJ.
Eddie Bravo, flat earth. I was like, wow, is it the Flat Planet Jiu-Jitsu? Like, that might be interesting to check out.
Flat Planet
Jiu-Jitsu.
He should probably change it to that instead of 10th Planet.
That'd be awesome, dude. But see, on the logo, it wasn't flat. So,
no? It's conflicting there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I want to sit down and talk with one on a serious basis. I want to have
same
you guys need to find somebody that's a flat earther and have them here. Don't challenge them. Just listen. I really gotta get one just spelled out.
How soon can you get here if we were?
If we do
get somebody.
Yeah.
Listen, I got 2 kids. Okay, I need prepreration.
Okay,
there's like 18 babysitters at my house right now. I don't know if you know that.
Well, I mean, I'm saying like if things got interesting. Because I'm sure you'd love to be. I mean, I know. See, I've struggled with that because it's like I want to have that conversation, but then again, it's like I almost don't.
No, I do. I gotta hear it. I gotta hear it out.
I think just like Mason said, just listening to
them.
Just ramble on, man.
Yeah.
Just keep. I have no idea how stupid or how silly you sound right now.
But see, that's the thing.
Don't tell them they're stupid.
No.
You can't say that.
No. Of course not. Because then you shut down. But see, that's the thing.
Let them go and just see what goes.
You gotta buy into it just a little bit. Buy into it.
Well, you have to because that feeds them. That keeps them going.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would imagine. I don't
be
know.
a globetard.
Yeah,
I've never.
Make sure you guys remove this podcast because they're gonna hear this one first. Then have the flat earth.
Damn it.
Post it.
Yeah, but they're gonna say, "Oh, so they're just talking to some lawyer guy." It can't be that interesting.
Yeah, he's a lawyer. He's an idiot.
Yeah. No, they're just talking to some lawyer guy.
He's indoctrinated.
Yeah.
He's indoctrinated.
He's probably an NASA shill. And that's the question I want to ask. It's like, well, why? Like not just like, well, just a general why, but it's like, what would be the benefit of brainwashing an entire society to thinking that the Earth is not in fact flat, but rather a globe?
Well, we could start off with the airline prices would be a lot different. I would say we could go with that, right? Because if they would.
So like, dude, we're traveling a really long way, man. Look, the Earth is round, so we got to go all the way around here. Where it's
But
just a
those
direct.
flags
It's
are
really
right
just a straight line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the flat plate science.
Yeah, yeah, man.
If we have him here and he does the flat plate with the water, I'm gonna lose my shit.
God, guys, I don't know. I don't know if we want to do this, but I'll think about it.
I mean, if
I
the
think it'll
Earth
be
is
interesting.
rotating at how many miles per hour?
Yeah, we would have spun off.
We
dude.
would've spun off,
Although, how
and
does the
then-
water stay on the planet?
Not only that, but I mean, you think it would
100%.
travel a lot faster, right? If you just travel against
Yeah.
from where the Earth is rotating.
Well, that's actually
Right, right.
No, that's actually a thing, because of and I actually have some upcoming travel. But even when traveling to the Philippines, like on the way back, the flight is a lot shorter because of the rotation of the Earth.
How dare you?
But maybe they just they change the clock, so they that's
yeah.
easy. That's
You are
Man.
fake news.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I might be an NASA shill. I might be.
I think so.
But I'm
man.
waiting for my check though. Still, so
Hey Brian, I wanted to tell you we have our Facebook lawyer.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just remember last time. That we had
Yeah, that
time.
is
was funny.
I do, and that is one thing in terms of like,
funny.
in terms of my thing, in terms of getting into a lot of reading is gun rights, the Second Amendment, and some of the gun laws that have passed here in California here
Yeah.
recently. And some of the ongoing cases, right? Here recently, the Ninth Circuit Court determined that people don't have the right. The Second Amendment does not cover the sale of firearms, right?
Yeah.
So they can so basically what that meant is like, yes, certain municipalities can restrict where firearms can be sold,
Right.
and it's not covered constitutionally.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you follow cases that go to the circuit courts and
Yeah.
how often they're overturned in the the Supreme Court, but
So
the Ninth Circuit has a very good record of being overturned.
I'm with regards to constitutional law, it's an area that I love as far as that goes. I don't practice in it because I'm just not at a place in my career where that has come up.
That's a lot of time, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
that's so much time,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've listened to some of the testimony and gone through and listened. I mean, it's endless, right? You could spend
I bet,
an entire time just going through the cases and learning the nuances of the arguments that have been made, and
the Ninth Circuit is like you said before is actually the most overturned court,
Right.
And every single so whenever you have these big cases that come up that are really challenging the Constitution, you'll notice that they choose to go through the Ninth Circuit.
Right.
And the reason is that they want to get a favorable outcome all the way up until, because if they were to go into a realm of where a different court that wasn't overturned as often,
Right.
it's basically it's basically a different battle is really what it is. But the Ninth Circuit ultimately they choose to go into the Ninth Circuit first because it's a more favorable court. Number one, if you're trying to overturn things. As far as the Constitution goes, my personal view is I tend to be an originalist and a fundamentalist, and the
you and I would get along well.
Yeah. The reason is that the words that we're speaking today really, to me, has to do with intent of what we're trying to say.
Right.
Right. So if I say, take the speed limit. If the speed limit says, it's 50 miles an hour, the intention of that is 50 miles an hour.
Not 51.
It's not 51 in case Jim, has a bad day, or this person in these certain circumstances. The law, the point has to come down to the intent of what we're saying at the time. And if the intent at the time is meant to be a certain way, that's why we have a system in place to allow those laws to be changed. And so, I mean, not to get too preachy on this aspect, but the court system has essentially become an avenue that is, in my personal opinion, is far-reaching what it should do.
I agree.
It's the Second Amendment is a big area, that ultimately affects a lot of different things.
Yeah.
That's my brother.
Okay.
It's just a random guy.
He's a random guy.
He's looking for legal representation.
I
Here,
thought
there
it was a
some-
perv.
Yeah.
I thought it was a perv.
Well, no, we're not
man.
ruling that out. Just because he's his brother doesn't mean it's not.
Yeah.
He's checking us out right now.
Yeah. So I mean, here recently, having lost somebody in the Supreme Court that was very much an originalist and somebody that basically and I'm paraphrasing, he said, the Constitution says what it says and it doesn't say what it doesn't say.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's and this is kind of going back to now that whole the Supreme Court kind of unfortunately leads to political discussion in terms of appointees and who appointed them and kind of their opinions and where they're based politically. Like that's a whole nother thing that I think a lot of people that aren't. I think it's more common in the Second Amendment community for people to be more in tune with that.
Cut out.
You're cut out. You can't hear.
You can't hear?
Let me see.
Oh, I mean too.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Oh,
there we go. We're back.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
back.
So
Alright.
so that's one.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah. So that's one of those things that I see a lot of. I mean, there's very few, and I mean, I've had a ton of other hobbies and interests and stuff like that.
Right.
But I mean, there's very few other ones where, you get somebody that will dive that deep into knowing who, what president appointed what Supreme Court justice and how they've ruled previously and there's the gamut, right? So there's people that are just casually interested in firearms but then there's the people that I don't want to say that I'm like an expert or anything, but I do a lot of reading and maybe I'm a little bit more involved in that aspect of it. And my opinions have changed along the way as well, just from talking to different people. And I think I've developed something from that, from my research and looking at a lot of the laws and how they've changed and what some laws are, what they say and what the intent is. And the whole governmental process, man. I mean, it's pretty interesting. At least here with recently what happened in Nevada, some of the proposed bills that are going through is the language written, and that going back to so that's the thing is that's where it ties into that. It's like the language that they use that's going to be the law. I mean, you would think that they would be very specific, but some of these bills that are being proposed the language is very, very broad.
If you don't know about a subject, you're going to be broad, and that's a big part of it. Yeah. If it's I don't, like, for example, I know nothing about I guess you could say planes. Like I really don't know anything about aeronautical engineering or anything like that.
Right.
So the problem is with when you start to talk about incredibly complex things, and even though we look at even guns as being something that we look at them as you pull the trigger, it shoots, kind of a deal.
Right.
I think that's the concept of how we look at them
It's a mechanical
in the United
device.
States. But when you start to look at the reason why I bring up planes is because it's obviously an area that we would all agree that the average guy doesn't know enough about.
Right.
In order, you can't research Google. You can't really self-educate yourself enough to be able to be competent in that area.
Right.
Say this has to be made of this certain material because it's that sort of thing.
And so that's really what's going on, I think, in particular with our gun laws, is because the recent bill that has been presented is limiting anything that would increase the rate of banning anything that increases the rate of fire. That's obviously incredibly broad in the sense that really what could increase the rate of fire is just you could argue, and depends on the justice that you have on the court, is going to say, well, if you have easier access to your firearm, that would be increasing the rate of fire, right? So in that sense, you'd be able to expand these different areas.
So even from a mechanical standpoint, right? So you have a rubber band, shoelace, a belt loop.
And you can watch individuals that are shooting a gun just with a standard trigger. With no mechanism in it, that almost shoots similar to an automatic rifle. And you can implement those things in place. And the problem is the laws are trying to ban. Really, what we're after, I think, what we're trying to do, in particular with guns in this case, is that we're trying to ban evil actions by individuals.
Right. You can't legislate morality.
Right. And so it's in a sense we're looking at murder in this case. We're looking at murder and saying the mechanism by which you're committing murder and the number of which people are being killed is on each incident is something we would like to stop.
Right.
The problem is you could implement any law with regards to the makeup of any gun. It doesn't have to be a rifle. It could be a bolt action rifle.
Right.
It could be a pistol that you have to self load each time, individual shots. You're going to find a way that is going to usurp that law. That is going to be legal. You find this with drugs, right? So, so synthetic drugs are a big thing. They are banning drugs in general. Say you're trying to ban, for example, cocaine. The problem is you're going to ban a substance which is a chemical, and you're going to construct it according to that chemical. The problem is you develop a synthetic drug that changes a little bit.
Salts.
Right. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
And so you're really then that's the thing is that's why my stance on these things is what we're really after has nothing to do with guns.
Right. So to go with that point, and before we get too far from that, the ATF had determined that bump fire stocks were 100% legal. Previously. And if we go back to it, the whole reason for bump stocks existing is because of the heavy restrictions on fully automatic rifles.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
a way around the law.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a completely legal way around the law. And they determined, hey, this is 100% legit. There's no problem with this. Yeah. And then somebody misuses it.
Right. And then they try.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a political issue. It's really not a legal issue. If you talk to most attorneys, it really is not a legal issue because of the fact that the understanding is the law itself is not comprised or even situated to be able to establish a law that's going to prevent these type of things.
Right.
It's like and so you're essentially going around really the heart of the issue in order to and you're not addressing the real problem here,
which is maybe a human condition. I mean, just
you can't
morality.
Mental health. I don't know what you would call
that's
it.
why I was talking about that book that I'm reading right now is the reason why I'm a huge fan of Thomas Sowell, which I'm sure you guys, I don't know if you guys are familiar who he is. He's an economist. He's been around since the 1970s, really, when he started getting involved. But anyway, his book, Quest for Cosmic Justice, is the heart of it is the idea that really what we're looking for is out in the universe. There are things that we would all say are wrong, right? So if somebody's born with a disability or there are these evil acts that take place, we would like them to not be.
Right.
And the problem is we live in a world that is not perfect. We live in a world where some people are born taller and they're able to become LeBron James, or some people are able to be, I don't know, whatever athlete you would like to think of, or any whoever that may be. And so what we're trying, everybody is born different, and that in not just physical but mentally speaking, people are born differently. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make an even playing field for everybody, so that everybody achieves the same result, even though we all start off with something different.
Right. So there's the I guess is the confusion of the concept of equality, where people think it's equality of result as opposed to equality of opportunity. And it's one of those things. It's like, in reality, like, you and I mean, we went to the same high school, grew up in around the same area. So, you and I had the same opportunity, the same likelihood of ending up in the same place in our lives. But we didn't, because of different factors that, weren't necessarily unfair. They just were.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They just
I tend to side on individuals in the sense that individuals need to make the right choice
for themselves,
and for themselves. And I mean, we haven't talked about this, but the truth is I mean, most of the things I see in general when it comes to inequality, I could probably lay out most things that I'm a white guy. I could lay out most things that people complain about in their life and say that this is where I came from. I could probably lay out most of those in my life to an extent. I mean, I know, like, except for the fact that you could blanket the fact that I am a white guy, and I may have certain circumstances that may benefit me potentially as a result of that. But almost any other aspect that you kind of come along with, being somebody who was born in the United States, I probably have similar or the same that somebody would complain to otherwise.
Right.
You know, I mean, my father was homeless for 15 years of my life. You know, it's the aspect of having, you know, your mother raise you at times in your life when you don't have all these different father figures and all that stuff in your life.
How is that possible? The white privilege. You didn't,
Right. You know,
cash that in to get housing.
Yeah. So
you have a certificate on hand.
I mean, obviously this is not what we're talking about.
It is. But, we're going there.
but you know, essentially, there are certain things that I think I tend to side when we're talking about guns. Right. I tend to side on the aspect of it is illegal to kill people.
Of course.
And so that is the ultimate law in this situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you ever came to me and said, you know what, we're going to allow people to kill others, and the reason why, and we're going to say we're going to allow them to kill people, but ultimately, you know, we'll still they can kill people, but they can't do it with regards to guns, or they can't do it with regards to this. And those are where the law is basically what we're trying to do. I think is where the argument has shifted,
right?
In a sense where we've said, you know, you can't kill people, and also, you know what, we need to prevent this additional killing over here going on with this specific mechanism.
Right.
And in particular, when you're talking about guns, and guns are actually on the lower level of what actually ends up killing people.
Of course, more people died from hands and feet than have from a rifle.
This is where statistics comes in, right? This is where
but see,
statistics is important.
But see, that's the thing is you ignore the factual side of it, and you kind of play to the emotional side and say, well, even one person dying is
and you see it a lot,
which is absolutely true. Which is absolutely true. I think in one regard, you have to say, listen, you can't idly by and say, well, this person died, and so then therefore, you know, it's just part of the deal. But
you don't know me. I definitely do that.
I see it more along the lines of we are all individuals. I don't care where you came from, what you are. If you're in the United States, you are probably the most privileged person on the planet.
Right. I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
You're in the 1% of the world.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Regardless of your color or your situation, you may think, oh, well, you know, I don't have an iPhone 8, so that means I'm poor.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Shit. I must be broke as fuck then. I have an iPhone SE, whatever.
Yeah. So it's like, dude, if you can go somewhere and turn a tap and water comes out, dude, you're way ahead of a lot of people in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
I got an opportunity. When I was in law school, I got an opportunity to go to Europe for 5 weeks.
Nice.
We went and did a program I went and studied in Strasbourg, France. It was on. I did this with a terrible human being. I did this with a small child, and I left my wife at home with our kid. But it was an opportunity in our life, and my wife talked about it and allowed me to go. And so while we were there, it was all in human rights, and in particular they kind of focused on child labor laws, but it was an exposure to international law for myself and how that's structured, how it affects or how it's implemented or enforced, but then also understanding the level of almost ignorance when it comes to the fact that what we have in the United States, in particular, with what is going on in the rest of the world, to complain about most things in the United States. I'm not saying people don't have things to complain about, but there are a lot of things that we complain about on a political level that is almost laughable when you get to some of these other countries, and not even some, most of the other countries in the world. So it is a huge humbling experience just to go there and listen to really what's going on in the rest of the world, and understand that we live in the United States where there actually are laws that can put people who are in power in prison, is to make that a real possibility is
right.
It's almost it almost feels like a distraction, this whole shit that's going on as far as politically and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people, there are some people that make that argument. It's like, oh, something happened. Like, what are they trying to distract you from? But like, those people never really they ask that question, but they never produce the answer, which is kind of easy for me to dismiss them because it's
they go around it.
Okay, yeah. What I mean, yeah.
Well, then what is it?
What is? Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I'm open. I'm listening. What is turning the frogs gay?
Justin Bieber, bro.
Yeah.
Despacito.
Oh, there you go.
That helps.
Hashtag somos reggaeton.
Todos somos reggaeton. Yeah.
Yeah. It can't hurt.
Yeah.
It can't hurt.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's I mean, yeah, I'm open to a lot of conversation, man, because of the same. Like, at least for me, like I won't say like, oh, I'm a world traveler, but I've been to a few countries, man, and I have seen stuff that it's like. It is really humbling, man. It's like, dude, like, yeah, even in like when I saw myself in the worst situations, like I didn't have it that bad, and it's not like in a way to consider it like, oh, like I'm better than that person. Not at all.
No, yeah.
But it's one of those like, so it does give you a bit of perspective of like, man, maybe like, maybe that extra 20 minutes it took me to get home really wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
it's like because I spent the 20
from
minutes
your job that you have.
From my job that I have, and I'm going to a home that where I can turn on the water and the water's there.
Yeah.
I don't have
make
to.
me feel like a dick, man. I complain about being on that 91 freeway for like an hour and 15 minutes.
That's all right then. Yeah, you can do that.
Everything's all good then.
Yeah, everything's all good.
All right.
Hey, at least you were on a fire.
Speaking of the fire up north, man, there's like 20-something people dead, and hundreds missing.
That number
crazy.
That's intense.
So yeah, and that's the thing is the number is the number is what it is, but we don't know.
We don't know
because there's a lot of areas where they can't get to survey
So
like
rural.
did people get out. So I heard about this, and this is pretty weird. So the average age of the person that's died in that fire 78.
Oh, it's elderly then.
Wow.
Yeah. So you've got to think like the fire moved so quickly, and there's a lot of stories of people literally like having to run out of their house through neighborhoods that were on fire. It's like, dude, when you're 78 years old, that's not happening.
And I've been I was watching something saying that the fires are getting more intense than they was before, and it was crazy because I saw the firemen. They actually get from like back in like the 1980s it wouldn't burn as fast, so now it burns even faster. It's like,
well, you know what I read is it's the materials that
crazy.
not only that the house is made,
it's right now too.
It's like the materials that our furniture is made from. Now they're made from synthetic materials, which burns a lot faster. It has toxic
compressed woods with
woods, and compared to furniture from back in the day where it was made with like natural materials.
Well, it's not just that. It's another very obvious thing too. Is look at how close our houses are together in some of the newer areas. You go to like old areas, like old areas.
A lot of yard.
Yeah, there's a lot of. And
now you can hear your fucking neighbor take a shit.
Yeah, you hear when he flushes the
pass the toilet paper to the. Here you go.
Hey, guys, toilet paper over there. Like,
yeah, bro, here you go.
They're making a transition on how they're fighting fires, I guess, because that was another thing too, is because of the fact that the goal of firefighting up to recent was to stop the fire. And so what would happen would be is obviously that wouldn't burn through a lot of dead brush and everything else. And so they've started to transition. Well, part of our stance is, okay, we're going to save lives and stopping that fire from reaching houses, but we're going to let it burn in areas that are not necessarily, because of the fact that it spreads so quickly.
Right.
Or lighting even backfires, right?
Yeah,
so it's like,
exactly.
they're like, oh, the fire's headed this way. There's all this brush that's here. And I mean, that's the one downside of all the rainfall we had. Yeah, it was awesome. It helped us out a lot.
But now
but there was a lot of vegetation that, and that's the one thing that is kind of weird. Like, even like traveling to the East Coast, you kind of notice that, like, dude, there's so much green here.
So lush.
Yeah. And then, but they
rains.
get regular rains. Yeah, there's seasons there.
Shit, Tucson, Arizona gets a lot more rain than we do.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird to think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a lot more regular, right? Where here it's like you have. I mean, there's been periods of time very, very long time, many, many years of severe drought. And you know, it goes in cycles.
What's your guys' stance on climate change?
Oh man.
We're gonna get it. That's a deep. That's
We're
a deep
going
topic.
there.
That's a deep topic.
We're already there. No,
So yeah, I don't know, man. I think and I think it's I think it's a thing, but maybe not a thing that we're affecting as much as people make it seem like.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like you have some of the ways that people that in particular the state of California is trying to legislate that seems kind of weird to me, right? So, you know, by making people pay more for gas, it's like, well, you know, it's like, how does that make sense? You're gonna pay. We already have the highest taxes in the nation when it comes to gas. Now, adding 65 cents to a gallon of gas in terms of tax, like, what is that money going to?
No.
What is that going to do?
Which they're increasing because now we're using less gas.
Like myself working.
We're all using less gas. And
remember that
have
time
to
when
increase the taxes.
we were in that drought and they said, "Oh, you know, stop using your water." Well, I guess we were really efficient with our water, and they charged us even more on the water.
Yeah, so there was areas, and I think
big lawsuits
San Diego
on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was an area in San Diego where they were charging them. They said, "Oh, well, now we have all this water, and we have to store it, and that costs us money.
Yeah.
So how do we pass that on to our?"
I heard people getting fined for doing that, for saving water and stuff by the city.
Well, not necessarily fined, but definitely like rate increases.
Yeah, rate increases.
There's a lawsuit that's been going on in a few different areas because there's a law, and I haven't researched much on it, but I do know that the basis of the law is that there's you cannot, particularly with the water, you can't charge more than what it costs you to obtain it.
Right.
And so what would happen? Obviously, they have these rates according to if you use X amount, you're over this amount, you're going to get charged more money.
Yeah, it's tiered.
It's tiered. So the difference is so the problem is now you're charging more than what it costs you to obtain that water.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So now they're profiting on water.
So it should be a non-for-profit type. Not
Well, no.
It's like food in the sense where you can't tax for food.
Right.
Right. So the idea is it's a basic necessity.
Yeah.
And so
it doesn't get out of hand.
Right. Right. Now you can charge for Aquafina and Dasani and all these.
Yeah,
those are different.
But there's alternatives.
Luxury. But when it comes to water, as far as turning on your faucet or your bathtub and all that,
like we're talking about water, there's a thing that they're having, because I'm in like the HVAC industry, so that's air conditioning and stuff like that. So now they're
we got to talk. By the way, that's an industry I'm heavily interested in. But go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Well, me working as, like, you know, with the distributor and stuff like that, now California has this law where if you buy an 80% furnace, if you don't know what that is, it's just a standard furnace, you know, and it runs natural gas, you got to pay a fee of $150.
Oh, I thought it was like an 80% firearm where they sell you a thing
not
that resembles
Second
it.
Amendment. Okay,
no.
not everything.
No, but
Go past that.
It's an 80% furnace. You got to put in some work to make it 100% and actually make it work.
Yeah.
I know that. No, that
80%.
wasn't it at all.
And I'm
telling you,
I got a few of those.
I'm telling you, it's just crazy, because California, like it says, is just taxing on stuff that, you know, just emissions. Like when we get our tax for our trucks, they tax us for the smog.
It's a commercial. Yeah, it's a commercial vehicle.
Right.
So here's
here's
the interesting thing about that,
It's a budgeting problem.
and it's like So it went so far in terms of people getting fuel efficient vehicles and hybrids and stuff like that they've even talked about, like, oh, well, now they're using less fuel, so now there's less revenue from gas taxes.
Yeah.
How do we make up that difference?
You charge more.
Yeah, well, there's talk that I've heard talks of, like, oh, well, they're gonna charge an extra fee to hybrid vehicles for this and that. It's like, well, why? Like,
it's counterintuitive. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you push that, like, you gave people incentives. You subsidized their Tesla, which to me is weird.
Because the goal is not to necessarily improve things. It's to generate more money.
Of course.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So that whole thing of subsidizing Teslas, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't drive around as much as I used to. I mean, I used to. There was a time where I was commuting from Fontana to El Segundo, which is 62 miles one way.
Fuck.
Now I don't drive that. I don't drive nearly that far.
Feel so bad.
That's talk radio.
No.
You listen to talk radio?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah,
why.
well, yeah.
Because you're a commuter.
Yeah, of course.
Right,
Go ahead.
right.
Yeah, but I've listened to talk radio even before. I used to commute a
I think in
lot.
high school, didn't you?
Yeah. But I mean, but even before that, like just driving around now, there's never been a time where I've seen so many $75,000 to $100,000 vehicles, like the Teslas and stuff like that. But it's like, you think about it, it's like, well, they're subsidized. Like, yeah, there's, there's something there. Like, they're subsidized.
Subsidizing the 1%.
Well,
Right.
yeah. And I don't know how. I mean, but it's a false result, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they're like, oh, look, we have all these cars, all these people that are moving to green energy, but it's like, but they're not. But like, they wouldn't have been if you wouldn't have offered them $7,500 at the end of the year for buying that vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. It's kind of like you said. It's kind of a false influence.
Yeah.
Oh, the Tesla companies, in California, and yet they built their battery plant in Nevada because the tax climate there was a little bit better. They offered more incentives.
Better Call Saul was actually filmed in New Mexico because of the taxes and fees that were going to be implemented. They were going to actually do it out here in the IE, which I don't know if is a good thing or not, because that means they're
going to do that with Breaking Bad as well, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Better.
Oh, Breaking Bad. Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Breaking Bad in general.
Well, that's where it came from.
Right.
Breaking Bad came. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So Breaking Bad was actually supposed to be done here in the IE.
Yeah.
And they moved it out to New Mexico because of costs,
taxes.
fees, taxes, all that.
Yeah,
So-
and California's seen a lot of that, a lot of production leave. Like, there's a lot of films that are made in Canada and I think New Zealand where they did Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah,
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Yep.
For that same reason, and it's funny because I was listening to recently, they were talking about Amazon is wanting to do a new headquarters building, and there's many jobs that are going to be created from that.
Everybody's trying to get that.
Orange County. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you have Orange County, and Orange County cannot, like, they could say, like, it's weird how these things work, right?
Louisiana
At least from
will get it.
Right.
yeah,
Louisiana will get it.
I think it's going to be one of the states. Well, but then the weather area there is kind of like the risk. There's a pretty big risk in terms of weather.
It's going to be the Silicon Swamp. Is what it'll be.
Yeah.
Silicon Swamp.
So that's the thing is like, they're like, oh yeah, Orange County is trying to put in a bid for it. It's like, dude, why? Like, I guess they do it for, as a formality, but it's like, when you think about it, like, now you hire somebody in California and there's so many more laws that you have to go.
So many.
And I mean, that's not to say that either you agree or disagree with them. There's some I agree with, some I disagree with, but there's just so many that you have to abide by, where it's just like,
as a business person, you're like, don't want to deal with that shit?
I know.
yeah,
right?
of course. It's like, I can go over there and, there's not as many that I have to deal with.
Circumvent all that shit.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the free market doing what it does. That's and it's you being in economics, I'm sure you're very well familiar with the concept of the free market producing a lot of things.
Yeah, I have a general stance that going back to what I was saying is that I think individuals are going to act. The reason why I side with individualism is because of the fact that we're all individuals and we all act according to that. And so the only real way that you're going to harness that power, there's a lot of power in the fact that individuals are going to act according to their self-interest. And so the reason why we or I should say the reason why I actually side with the fact of more free market interest is because of the fact that it supports, it actually harnesses that individualisal
to a common goal.
Yeah, and it benefits people based on all no matter where you come from. I mean, if you want to gear towards a certain market and capture that market, no matter what it may be, you can capture that. It doesn't have to be, if you want to. It's the reason why, like McDonald's, obviously, or these large corporations, they sell to lower income because they're trying to capture that market quick, convenient, cheap, and so it drives innovation. It actually drives down costs according to the self-interest of the business themselves, because they're going to try to do that. Which is another thing that interests me, is because of the fact that you have a lot of businesses who are involved politically in order and driving regulation and things like that. But when you try to regulate their own industry,
it's a weird thing.
Obviously, they become very combative.
Right.
Whoa! What are you doing?
Yeah. I thought we were buddies. I gave you money.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a great example is California. A lot of things going. We're talking about film industry and how they're going out of state or in other country, Canada, things like that. And so a big part of that has to do with obviously the entertainment industry in California, and Hollywood is a huge attraction for people coming here for vacation, tourists, and all that. And so the problem is because of the regulation, because of the expense associated with being in California, not just taxes, but the labor aspect, they're going somewhere else.
Right.
And so what California decided to do was they went ahead and said, well, we're going to go ahead and subsidize and give some tax breaks to the film industry in order to keep them here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's funny is when, the huge thing is trickle down economics.
Yeah.
When Reagan says, I'm going to subsidize businesses in order to improve jobs, it's considered trickle down economics. Right. It's considered evil. But yet when California does it for the film industry, it's not considered trickle down economics in order to keep an industry here and benefit for jobs and everything else. Yeah. It's considered to be able to, it's helping the I guess you could say the people at the bottom in order to ensure that they can maintain a certain
that's what they'll point at, right? They'll say, oh, well, look at the small businesses. And meanwhile, you have guys out there that are, guys that are in a fruit cart and they're trying to do that. And then they're
which I have no problem with.
Neither do I.
If you want to hustle, you can hustle, man.
Hey,
right.
Yeah. That's the beauty of, Yeah.
I mean, and we see plenty of that. And it's funny because it's like I got off the freeway earlier today and I see a guy with a sign asking for money, but right in front of him I see a lady selling flowers. Yeah. And it's like, in the end, like they're really looking for the same thing. Yeah. They're just going about it in a different way.
Yep. Right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird. It's like you pass by a lot of those situations in your day-to-day life and you don't notice it, but sometimes some of them stick out to you. Like that one was kind of weird to me. Yeah. Right. It's like, oh, this guy's just asking for money. But this lady will give you something. She's asking for money as well, but she'll give you something in exchange.
In return,
exactly.
Yeah. Which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I think both approaches can work. They can live next to each other side by side in that situation. It just depends on what you value more. Do you value the do you value the product that the lady was selling, or do you value more that nice feeling of, hey, I gave some guy a couple bucks?
That, or you could value the hustle.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which to me, it's like, wow, I don't really need any whatever that lady was selling.
But you're trying.
But I appreciate it. Yeah.
My wife would actually rather have flowers from the person that I buy at getting off the freeway or whatever.
Right.
Then
get them from an actual florist. Yeah.
For so long, for some reason, they last longer.
Yeah, I could see. I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I bought some for my wife and it took for a while.
The freeway flowers last longer than the flowers.
I think so.
I think this is a science project.
They're thug flowers.
My daughter's going to do this, her first science project. Yeah, which one lasts longer?
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the pollution that helps. It's all the greenhouse gases.
It's pollution.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right?
There you
it's
go.
Carbon monoxide.
I figured it out.
There you go.
There you go. Science.
Boom. Debunked.
Global warming my ass.
Yeah, see? It helps. It helps the freeway side flowers.
More pollution. But we got to plant trees at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
See? More pollution helps the flowers, so that's good. You get a better value.
They like carbon monoxide.
Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
It is a greenhouse gas.
So what's your guys' verdict on Templeton? Did you guys enjoy Templeton? Or what's
really good.
I don't know.
I'm not done.
Yeah, I think so. If we're going by, we can't go by the scale this time. So we had figured out that we can glance at a bottle and tell how much we liked it.
Okay.
But we got a false start on this one because we finished that one first, so it's hard to tell for this one. I don't know that we'll be able to use the same
pretty good
scale.
damage on that.
Yeah,
one,
I mean,
so far, yeah.
Well,
it's
for me,
How long have we been
going.
doing this? What time?
we're at about 2 hours
right now.
and 12 minutes, which is
gone
probably
by
the
pretty
longest. Yeah.
marathon session in these chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I changed the chairs. If you guys didn't notice.
Yeah.
Oh, you did change the chair.
Yeah, it wasn't the hard.
you.
These are softer plastic. That's the
so
hard.
I have the
ones.
harder ones.
Made from
You
gasoline.
splurge in.
That's why we've
Oh,
been,
yeah.
that's why we've been doing it for so long and didn't notice it. So.
Did not notice at
see?
all.
Yeah.
So smooth, man.
I
Nice,
know.
nice switch, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had to do it.
It's not
Awesome.
the metal chairs, you know.
Yeah, those metal
Moving
chairs.
on
dude.
up. No.
Yeah.
Moving on up.
Hey, we're improving, right?
Yeah.
Getting better. So yeah, I didn't notice it.
No, really?
I didn't notice
No.
it either
No.
until you mentioned it either.
Yeah. I did notice it was a bit more. I thought maybe I just got lucky and grabbed the right chair. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, like
No,
cool. I didn't
changed
think
the
about
chairs.
it. Yeah.
I just thought all my nerve endings are dead.
Yeah.
So, alright.
They're- yeah. You're just
Sitting
like,
on
"Ah."
these chairs for this long.
I've already been tortured, so you know,
Why
you're
not?
like, yeah, they're fine.
This isn't as bad as waterboarding, is it?
Yeah.
It's got
Yeah.
its perks.
Yeah.
It's got its perks. Just get kinky with it.
Oh snap. Yeah.
What's my
Oh,
name?
shit.
Yeah, so going back to I don't know, man. I think I'm drinking more to try to decide if I like it. I think is what I've been doing here. I haven't
You're doing
drank a lot.
the 211 method.
Well, I know I don't like 211,
Yeah,
but
we
I
did-
like the result.
We drank it for out of necessity.
Yeah.
We needed to
I
get
know.
fucked up.
Yeah, I was a King Cobra man. Man.
King Cobra. Yeah, see, we were Mickey's guys for a
Mickey's
while.
guys.
Mickey's too.
211s.
Yeah,
Mickey's is actually pretty decent for the
Yeah.
price.
Yeah.
For what it is.
One of my first job, we'd leave and we'd go buy 240s, Mickey's, and we go pound them down. Yeah, it's good.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys
What's
ever watched what's that? It's one of my favorite shows, How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I've watched.
They
it.
have that Edward 40 hands
Oh,
challenge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they duct tape 240s to their hands and just try to
Yeah, you can't take them off until you finish them.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I watched that show with my kids. I think
It's a great show.
Yeah,
It's funny, yeah. I've got pretty far on that show, but then I realized I just lost interest. Like it's one of those things that's like I just kind of stopped watching it, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'll get back to it some other time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
a
it's
great
it's
show.
one of those cool. It's one of those shows that you could pick back up on it and be
Oh,
fun.
for sure.
I have this problem where I usually watch these old shows way after the fact that they've been over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's beneficial now because you can binge watch them.
Right.
oh yeah.
Whereas
yeah.
before it was like you had to like be around for the first time it aired, and it's like if you missed
gotta
it,
wait for
Waste
the
a lot
next
of
one.
time, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
yeah.
That's what I did with How I Met Your Mother. I waited until it was done and I binge watched it and I was like, this show's great. And I kind of hate that I started watching Game of Thrones now because now I gotta wait until the next fucking season.
Oh yeah.
I didn't start watching until this I think the 7th season.
Yeah.
So the most recent season I think it was.
I still haven't started watching it, so maybe I'll
dude,
wait. Maybe
I
I'll
think
wait
it's a
till-
good
Dude,
show. I don't know.
it's really good.
I don't know, man. I've not been sold on it. I maybe once it's
I started watching it like 2 or 3 times and I couldn't get past the first episode and people were like just keep watching. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll start, and little by little, it just grabbed my attention.
Yeah. You have to follow the story, and then once you start following the story, then you'll see like how, I don't know, it just gets crazy.
It does get crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe don't start watching it because you're gonna have to wait.
no, but then there's gonna be. I mean, I know all my favorite characters die. Like I know that going into it, so like that won't be like. I don't think it'll have the same effect, right? And so it's like, oh, like I start to like this character. I know they're probably gonna die, so I'll prepare myself for it, and I'll just detach.
That's every episode you're
Yeah,
There is one character that's turned out to be my favorite, and he hasn't died yet. So
Well, next
that?
season.
no
Who's
no
that?
spoiler
Who's
alerts.
that?
I'm not gonna say it.
No,
the
next season.
The dragon.
No.
Which one of the dragons?
No.
Which of the two?
What was it from Yu-Gi-Oh? The Blue Eyes White Dragon, whatever it's called. No, not that one. No.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh? I don't know.
Yeah, dude, Yu-Gi-Oh was. Yeah, that's quite the reference there.
Quite the reference.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but geez, going back to the rye. I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna have to have
you have a few more?
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta say, I mean, I've had it before.
I
haven't had a 6-year.
I don't dislike it. I wouldn't immediately say like, oh, this is terrible. I'll never drink this again.
It's new to you.
It's different.
It's different.
It's different. I'm open to it.
Rise is part of my favorites.
Yeah,
because it's not. As...
I enjoy a good patty melt. So and those are on rye bread. So
yeah, there you go.
Some of the same flavors.
So is patty melt related to a grilled cheese?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would be.
This man went to culinary school.
So one time, I just love food, man.
Yeah.
I love food. It doesn't seem like it, I know, but
yeah.
One time we were
come to my house.
I wasn't. I've been asked. I've been told that many times by many people. Come to my house, you'll gain some weight.
Yeah.
No one's ever.
It's never panned out.
It's never panned out. No. So I was in Atlanta, and we bought some bread, we bought some cheese, and we used the iron to make some grilled cheese sandwiches.
That's awesome.
That's some
awesome.
field,
some prison shit right there.
Yeah, some field.
I've never been to prison, by the way, but I'm saying.
Were you in a hotel room?
Yeah, in a hotel room. Yeah.
That's some hotel room ingenuity there.
Yes.
Yeah. Although you have to let it get real hot to like kill whatever else was on there.
Absolutely.
And get some of the, whatever else ended up on there.
Dude, who cares? Who cares?
Gives it flavor, right?
Gives it flavor.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who really irons anyway?
That's true.
That's true.
I do. I mean,
I iron, but I'm just saying, like, who?
Yeah.
Most people don't.
Most people don't.
Especially
they put it in the dryer and then they go iron.
It is easier that way.
That's what I do.
So what's the difference between a patty melt and a grilled cheese?
So the bread.
So it's rye.
Well, it's on rye bread.
Yeah.
And then there's the
meat.
patty. Yeah, there's the patty.
Yeah.
And there's no meat in the grilled cheese.
Yeah.
And then there's grilled onions.
It's pretty obvious.
Sorry,
What's the difference between a hamburger and a cheeseburger? Right?
The cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a cheeseburger with no cheese.
See, you learn something new every day, kids.
Cheeseburger with no cheese.
It's never too late to learn.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
That's the thing I've learned. It's like you don't know it all. There's no
Yeah.
such thing as a know-it-all.
Yeah.
There's
Right. That's
always an
right, 'cause
opportunity
you
to learn
don't know.
something new.
Well, you say that now, but I think at a certain point in life, we've all passed that stage.
Well, now that we have Google and Wikipedia
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
and Alex Jones.
Now we can.
And
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Yeah.
God bless him, man. With the-
God, you guys are gonna have to convince me about the whole flat Earth thing.
Dude, you need
about
to bring him.
Sit around. I'm gonna research this, and I'm gonna develop something to it's an actual argument.
As a
There you
lawyer,
go.
I believe
Yeah.
you can
I
do
think
that.
you
We'll figure it
probably
out.
You will figure it out.
But that's the thing.
The
is,
case for flat Earth.
Yeah.
wow,
yeah.
like you've got but you see, that's the thing is it may go too far the other way, man. You may be researching.
convince me.
Yeah, you'll be researching
you.
it, and you'll be like, "Fuck, maybe the Earth is flat.
It's
There is an
possible.
ice wall."
It's possible. You guys are all wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
it could be.
confirmation bias, dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna be looking for
Right.
the Earth to not be flat, but all along it's been flat, and you're a NASA shill, and you've been lied to.
We got to maybe YouTube a debate between a flat earther and a round earther, and just see who comes out on top. Maybe we just do that.
You got to rephrase that. It's a flat Earth
And build like
versus
a
globe
build like a
tard.
little
Sorry.
ring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ready?
yeah.
Go.
Globe tards.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm in the Globe Tard camp for now.
Yeah.
But that's an easy camp to be in, right? Because everybody's been brainwashed in
What-
the world.
yeah.
NASA
Wait,
shows.
what about
Convenient.
what about inner
It's
Earth?
convenient.
Though?
Yeah.
What about what?
Inner Earth.
Inner Earth.
Oh,
That's a whole different
getting
thing there.
deeper.
Mind blowing.
Admiral Byrd, I mean, he was flying over Antarctica and he found a opening and he flew in and apparently
Wait.
there's an inner Earth.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you find an opening, you've got to go in.
You got to go in, yeah.
I was coming back from class, and when I was driving back from class, I was listening to what is it? It's on like every AM radio station late at night, and it's,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
If you listen to talk radio, you have to know about this.
Oh, damn it. Coast to coast.
Coast to Coast. Okay,
Yes.
so the first time I was introduced to Coast, I was coming back from class, and I'm on the freeway. I'll never forget this. Is
With George Norrie.
yeah, with George Norrie.
Yeah.
By the way, one of my professors works with that guy. That I was in. Not the professor. His wife and now wife works with that guy. Anyway,
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm driving back. It was like my first year of law school, and so I'm sitting there and driving back, and I'm not really listening to the radio, but the radio's on, but I catch this guy saying, "But what about the lizard people?" And I was like, oh, I gotta listen to this. And
You don't know about the reptilians, man?
And no, I had no idea before that. Before that episode, I had no idea that there was lizard people out there.
That's a thing.
And they're right there.
Lizard people?
There's a whole. It's like the flat Earth thing, but there's lizard people too.
Reptilians.
The reptilians, they control everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I may be one of them.
I mean, there's kind of some truth to that because we do have a reptilian part of our mind, which is the.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
That's not what he was talking about.
No, he was talking about actual lizard people.
Yeah.
Although, if you look at Hillary Clinton, it makes a compelling argument.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen those videos.
Yeah.
You know, where their eyes start acting weird and whatnot. But yeah, see, again, I'm open to this stuff. It's just, you got to know about it to be able to like be entertained by it, I guess.
You guys are wasting your time bringing me on. You get some lizard people and some flat earthers on.
Well, we were hoping with your white privilege, you know, you might know some reptilians.
Yeah.
You may have run across, you know, a
the
couple.
White lizards. That's what we call ourselves.
Oh man,
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, I'm sure you've been invited to Bohemian Grove.
I'm actually like 2% Native American. Nice. I found this out recently. I actually researched. I mean, yes, my skin is white, but I'm probably from every other possible. Potawatomi.
Potawatomi.
Yeah.
My brother's girlfriend actually is. What's she? Apache?
Apache. Yeah. We don't like them.
Yeah. I identify as an attack helicopter from time to time, so you know. Yeah. Apache helicopter is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, they get all the glory. They get all the glory. The Potawatomis, we just smoke weed. That's it.
Well, maybe it's a jealousy thing. That's why you guys don't like them.
You know, we got a water park. They got a casino.
I don't know if you guys. Talk about getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Water park. Fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hot in Oklahoma. I don't think you realize. Yeah.
Hot and humid, isn't it?
How does that work? Do you get a free pass or like a discounted pass at least?
So I'm trying to get on the tribal roll if potentially, but we'll see what happens.
I've heard in terms of like the way the those tribes go when it comes to casinos, it gets brutal, man.
There's a guy I know. He's the whitest guy you've ever met, but he found out he was Native American, like some percent, and so. When I say the whitest guy, he's pretty much just a white guy. I mean, he's not the whitest thing. It's not, he doesn't have the small Hitler mustache and he's walking around.
He's not Aryan.
No. Which another thing I found out is apparently Persian, which is Iranian, are actually descendants from Iranian people. They consider if you with the dialect, I guess the way it works is the Iranian people are actually Aryan.
Yeah.
But anyway, basically. He found out he was Native American, and before he had a struggling construction business, and so he found out, and he got on the tribal roll, and now the guy is this multi-millionaire,
and
because he gets priority contracts with the government.
Oh yes,
and so he's just rolling.
Does that fall under affirmative action? Is that different?
So there's a thing that actually is a thing unrelated to the whole tribal thing. Mm-hmm. Like even if you're going after a government contract, you do get preference as a minority, as a
well
woman.
As blind people, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
Visually impaired.
Well, it's like the whole thing about getting into college too, right? So it's like, there's scholarships for everything. You know, if you're left-handed, you know, there's a scholarship for left.
Yeah,
so it's the same. So
Leftorium.
Yeah. So it's. Yeah.
Leftorium.
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 The Simpsons.
Yeah. It's Ned Flanders' story.
Yeah.
Oakley dokley.
Yeah, but you can get pretty much priority for a lot of different things. You don't even have to be the cheapest. Like if you're bidding on a contract. In this, because
it's weighted, it's like
like they get like with the state of California, it's for everything. It's not just a contract for providing a service. If you own a building and you meet certain criteria,
right,
you get priority for renting out that building to the government. And the government signs I don't know, 50-year contracts.
What was that movie with Jonah? I think it's Jonah Hill, where he's like a gun runner. And he's talking about that.
War Dogs.
There's a list. He's like looking through this list of government, job or not jobs, but contracts that you can bid on.
Yeah.
And that's a trip that there's shit like that, you know.
Yeah.
At least from my limited understanding, from that portion of
They
it.
do it
like,
for California too.
Yeah, yeah. It's local governments do that. Federal government does it. You know, that's their way in which they procure things is very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It doesn't even have to. Obviously, it doesn't have to be the cheapest thing. It's
No. Especially because we live in the age where nobody has one thing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is if you live here, I don't care where you come from at this point.
Yeah.
You're probably, you know, a percentage of one thing, a percentage of the other.
I think I saw an article where, you know, what's the word I'm looking for, or that certain group of people, I think, was it white nationalists? I don't know.
Yeah.
But they did a DNA test, and they were kind of devastated to find out they were
African. They were part African.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like
Clayton Bisbee.
Yeah,
Big
where
Clayton
he divorced his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dave Chappelle.
God, man.
It's the best.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, imagine that. Imagine being like, oh, it's such, you know, the white master race, and then you find out, you're like 3% African, dude.
Your membership is revoked.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody's membership would be revoked, right?
Yeah.
You're just a piece of crap if you're part of that association anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the personal guilt alone is probably just a little bit of justice.
Yeah. I mean, it's, talk about cosmic justice, right?
Yeah.
That's like you're proud. You're so proud of something you had no control over, and then all of a sudden it's crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so awesome.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know. Do you guys want to? I mean, I think we can.
I think this is probably our
longest
one.
Our longest podcast so far, man.
We can keep going. I'm sure.
It's been enjoyable, actually.
Yeah,
really
we
good.
keep going.
Not complaining at all. I mean, it's up to you guys. You guys want to keep going?
Yeah.
We got more whiskey.
Yeah, we got whiskey. We got whiskey. We got
This
unlimited internet here.
Yeah.
for now.
Wi-Fi for now.
I think we have like 10,000 or 10 million listeners.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah.
10 million.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
10 million.
Can I do a plug?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's right. Currently, we are the law office of Bryan A. Mason, but I'm in the process of I do zero advertising. But if you guys are interested, you can contact me. My office number is 951-289-0202. So I will be incorporating here soon. I have actually reserved. Awesome. I've already reserved the name of my law firm that I'm moving into. Like I said, I haven't had time, but it's Gavel Law Firm, and that's Gavel like Gavel, and so I already own GavelLawFirm.com. I own MrMason.com. I own a few other ones, but I expect basically coming soon. I'll be doing Gavel
That's
Law
awesome.
Firm.
We'll put it on our Facebook page, on our website.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna get you guys some good whiskey glasses, by the way.
Oh,
I'll get you guys.
Appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude.
It was fun. It was
it's
awesome.
a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, at least from what we've done so far, it's like you have so many different people and different different experiences.
Exactly.
Like it does keep things interesting.
It's like what we were talking about earlier.
I think that's what keeps it exciting for me. It's like you get to talk to so many different people that at least
and it's people you personally know. It's not because I mean you listen to other podcasts like it's this celebrity's coming on here. It's like no, we talk to everyday people that we know that we grew up with. It's like man,
we're not cool enough for celebrities, so we get
I really don't care about.
Wait a second. I'm not a celebrity. Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
now you are.
Yeah. I had a running joke for a long time that the Press Enterprise puts out like best deli or best whatever, right? So I was always like voted most popular by the Press Enterprise in 2007. And it was my running joke that I have with a few people.
Did you get the plaque? Because that's
that's what really counts.
I made it.
Well, there's no way to verify that.
You go to a store and make a fucking trophy for yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I like to say it was given to me, but I made it.
Best hacky
but it was given to you. It was given to the people that made it.
That's right.
And they gave it to you right after you paid them. Yeah, it's pretty interesting having at least some insight in terms of how some stuff gets, certain products get exposure, and I wouldn't say I'm an expert in it, but I've seen a little bit of what goes into it, at least from my work.
Right.
And it's pretty interesting how you get things in the hands of certain people that to look at and review, and it's been quite interesting.
It's about relationships too.
Yeah, it's not you'll realize that there's people a lot of the times the goal is to get to the point where you're not buying things to review. They're pretty much given to you. One of the YouTube channels I subscribe to is Unbox Therapy, and that
I heard about that channel.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool channel, but you you see a lot of, there's some stuff that gets sent to him that's pretty ridiculous. It's like, first, I don't know how anybody would pay for this, but it's and then second, like, this guy has enough of an audience to where they're like, oh well, we'll just send it to this guy for free so he can look at it, and him opening it up and talking about it, that's worth our advertising bucks alone. So
you could probably do that here. I know a guy that had a, they do this with the cars, with somebody has a street racer or whatever.
Right.
But I know a guy that got a barbecue, a free barbecue, just wrote a letter into a barbecue company that would attach a barbecue to a hitch. And so he would tailgate, and he had this SUV, wow. And so he just wrote a letter, and they sent him a free barbecue.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
So I know you guys are bigger than that as far as like setup. You'll be able to. They're probably sending you stuff you guys every day, but you could write a letter to anything you really want, and they'll probably send you to.
That's the thing is I mean, in the work that I do, it's like a lot of the times it's like, if you get your not necessarily even your request, but like your concern, your question, whatever, in front of the right person, man, you can, I wouldn't say that ultimately the goal is to get free stuff, but just like
help people out.
Consideration from certain procedures and certain ways that things are done.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And so yeah, there is some validity to that.
That's the way I started my firm. That was part of it, was to meet the right people. I went to every possible event at bar associations.
Yeah.
I just knew I needed to contact the biggest people just in case somebody came to me with a big case,
Right.
You knew where to go.
Yeah, and so and that's actually happened. I've gotten some cases that are really, really big, and I've met the right people who are willing to front the money, because part of civil litigation is you have to front the cost, and so most attorneys do not delve into that. They'll not most, but a lot of them won't, because you have to front the cost. Litigation is not cheap. I mean, just to give you an example, to do a deposition, one deposition is probably, if you want it just recorded with you have to have it recorded, but you're looking at $1,000 to $1,500 just for the court reporter to be there. And then they'll have video people. So if you'll see, I don't know, you can go on YouTube, you can do look at Lil Wayne's.
I'm gonna do that now.
Yeah, it's.
Doesn't have Justin Bieber's shit on there too sometimes?
Oh yeah,
where they're like they play dumb.
I
don't know. I don't remember.
Any person with money has been sued, and they've sat down in litigation. You can watch them on YouTube, and all of them, you'll sit there. I think Lil Wayne has one that just says, "I do not recall." To every question, "What's your name?" "I do not recall." Yeah. Just everything possible, and.
Well, I mean,
I paid the fifth.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a strategy, right? Whether it's a good one or not.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good one or not, that
case
depends.
specific. But yeah. I mean, it's a big part of litigation is fronting the cost, and so I went and reached out to these very, very large firms and said, I just try to meet people, and fortunately, I've been in a situation where I've gotten a few cases that are. I guess you could say a once in a lifetime situation. I've only been doing this for, I've been doing this for very long, but I've gotten some few cases that have come across my desk that are huge cases. And so what I did is I just went to firms that I knew could handle it.
Right.
And so I've partnered up with them on the cases. Mm-hmm. I've said, okay, I'll take your case, I'll sign them up, and then I'll go to a firm that has the resources in order to litigate the case. And, so now my name is tied to that case,
right?
To basically allow me to fund the case, and so, yeah. I mean, like you said, you meet the right person. a lot of that has to do with the fact of just meeting the right people, being in the right area, and meeting even the person in the mailroom is something that'll help you out in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll help you out when you're leaving.
Yeah.
Right? They'll tell you who to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
They know who to contact.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said your office is in downtown Riverside?
So I'm over off of Magnolia, right by the Riverside Plaza. I don't know if you
Okay.
guys are familiar with
Okay.
there's a Bank of America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's there. I'm on the second floor.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
So there's no cost for parking in my individual spot because I'm far enough from outside where they don't charge for parking. But every time I go to court, and as you guys know, if you go down pretty much 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 downtown, you're going to pay for parking.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
It didn't used
That's
to be
right.
that way either. It didn't used to be that way. I remember. I mean, there were some areas, but not like everywhere.
Now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Except for on the weekends, you can park.
Oh, yeah, of
everywhere.
course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They
But
don't charge.
that's its own has its own benefits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Being downtown area, what's your? I like food, so what's your favorite places to go eat and stuff? I know you're by the Riverside Plaza.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, being
Yeah.
So Backstreet is a big one that we go to a lot.
Backstreet Boys. or-
It's called Yeah.
All right.
Backstreet it's been there forever, and if you go there, everybody, not that everybody is that
Everybody
age, but
knows your name.
everybody's 80 years old that's in there, and it's a really great sandwich shop. So if you're looking for,
and that's located where?
What was it? What was it called?
it's Backstreet.
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 You guys just made fun of it.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, Eddie.
I'm sorry.
haters.
Come on, Eddie.
But being downtown, I love Romano's, man. I love.
Is that that's the new joint, right? So
They're down there. I love their just plain cheese pizza. Is really good. But there's tons of places. There's a French restaurant me and my wife go to all the time. It's called Le Chat Noir.
oh, it's right in the corner, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
right off of Market. I haven't
is.
been there. I've been meaning to go there.
You have to
wanting
go
to try
there.
some French cuisine.
You have. It's
had a
really
chance.
they do have French, food, but
Yeah.
when I came back from Europe, I was like, I gotta get some French food because I was fiending for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And the owner is French. Most of the servers in there speak French as their primary language, and me and my wife go there as often as we can. It is pricey, and they are only open in the evenings predominantly.
Yeah.
They're kind of a fine dining restaurant,
Which is very French.
Yeah.
Having the
Yeah.
weird hours.
Yeah.
yeah, not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big deal.
I need my nap.
Yeah.
I need
They're
my-
closed the entire month of August.
Yeah.
Have you visited the Salted Pig? That's a very popular place
Yes,
to talk about a lot.
I've
Mars
I know a lot of people are fans of
with
the
that one.
salted pig. I
Okay.
found that their menu has
changed.
changed.
It changes a lot.
It does.
That's
That's
they
the-
rotate, they rotate their
That's the
menu.
tough part about it. It's like you find. I mean, especially like at least I'm getting an idea here of you like to go to a place and you find something you like and you're kind of like we'll go back to it.
And then you go back.
Oh,
in.
yeah.
But it's like at a place like the Salted Pig, that's the downside of it. It's like you find something you like, you go there a couple weeks, and it's like, well, damn, they're not serving.
Well, it's the same thing with like we were talking about how whiskey people have different tastes. I enjoy trying new things. So
Yeah.
for me, a
Yeah.
rotating
I
menu.
do too. I just go there
Yeah.
thinking, this is gonna be really good. That was really good, and I want to go. And so I'll go there, and it'll even be. I've even found this when they rotate their menu. I'll order the same thing, and it just doesn't hit the spot again. It's
right, as it did before.
Yeah. Just
That's weird.
But I do like the salted pig. I do.
One of my favorite bars. I talk about this bar all the time. We need to go hit that up and do a podcast, sir.
That would be fun.
The Wolf Skill
That'd be cool.
is one of my
Yeah,
favorite bars to go to.
the bartenders are good there.
Yes, the
Yeah.
bartenders. Actually, my brother's girlfriend used to work there, and so I know most of the staff. I used to be a regular there and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
I
good times there.
Because I drink a lot of, like, if I ask for something, I drink it straight. So the bartenders are very knowledgeable. They tend to. I shy away from mixed drinks or anything that they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you should try this and it's got like a lemon twist or whatever. I don't drink that. But if I go there and I say I'm looking for something like this, they'll give me like 10 suggestions. They're really good. I do like that aspect of it, and which is why I liked going to Prohibition, was because
I gotta go there. I haven't been there. I heard it's really good.
I went
things.
there for brunch.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we did for brunch. I wasn't too impressed. Just I don't know why, but I enjoy the brunch at Cal Baptist.
Oh,
Yes,
it's so good.
it's so good, and it's cost effective,
Reasonable, yeah.
reasonable, and the
Yeah.
food is so good.
So we're gonna are we going down this road?
I know.
We
Yeah.
we are
Well,
going
I
down.
think
going
we
on?
need to go. I think we need to go there sometime.
We do need to go there sometime.
Not for a podcast, but just to be fat asses.
On
Do
Sundays,
the
man.
podcast there. I mean,
Maybe
why
yeah, we
not?
can take our equipment there and just
No.
do this podcast. And
Yeah,
even,
that-
Listen,
Yeah,
they'll
But
probably
seriously,
they'll
though,
probably respect the fact
I've
that you're
heard,
doing it
yeah,
there.
you know,
Yeah.
I've heard about that from a couple of times, but kind of like, not from like a whole ton of people, maybe
Yeah.
the same people, but just like it's been brought up a couple different times.
yeah, you and Jen should go sometime, man.
Yeah.
Take the kids.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It's really good.
Leave
man.
the kids. Leave the kids. Get a babysitter.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
just so you can enjoy it, enjoy everything.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is I'm kind of like, at least for breakfast food, like I find a place and I kind of like to stick with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if I go out for like lunch and dinner, like I like to change it up for those. But for breakfast, it's like
Yeah.
I'm pretty solid in terms of
You still
like,
gotta check out Riviera right here in Rubidoux off of Michigan.
That's
Yeah.
good. I've been there.
You're a
It's really
Denver omelet man, I would assume.
oh, dude, you nailed it.
Yeah, is there a bromance brewing
the
there?
gut.
what's going
Trust
on?
the gut. You know,
Did you
like
guys
I
just
said.
become best friends?
We might have. Yeah, no, I mean, because, to me, it's like, you know, wait, pancakes or waffles?
Ooh.
That's what it comes down to.
I tend to go for the waffle, but I do enjoy the pancakes. So if you're asking me if I like IHOP, it's a yes.
No. Well, yeah,
yes.
no. I'm if yeah.
Okay,
I'm the same way. I typically like I typically prefer waffle. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, especially like good pancakes.
Flapjacks.
Yes, like good pancakes. Like I can.
There's
you
a
can
difference.
like. There's
Yeah.
never. There's like, you know, it's not. It's kind of like.
I hop over Denny's. I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not a fan of Denny's.
No. Denny's
you
is only
can't do
good because
that,
it's
no.
open late.
That's true. I've been there.
That's
many
where they have
times,
the advantage.
Drunken nights.
You know what somebody told me about
Yeah.
that I haven't been to in a long
Denny's
time?
is good for being disappointed.
They do serve disappointment. They are very good.
They're
at that.
very good. at serving
100%.
You know what somebody told me about it, and I hadn't thought about it because
What?
I brought up the whole steak and eggs thing and how we'd been.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that. They're like, dude, go to Norm's.
Norms. I was disappointed with Norms.
Really?
Every time I've gone there, I'm like,
You know what? That's probably why I haven't been there in
Go
forever.
there late, dude. Go
Yeah.
there late, yeah.
So I think that is the advantage of like it's open late. So you know that's extra points.
the one thing going to Norms is the drama. It's good for the drama because one time after my buddy's wedding, we were in Orange County and we were at Norms eating, and there was a fight going on.
World Star.
Apparently these girls were fighting a tranny who's trying to go into the women's restroom. Like,
It
what the fuck are
happens.
you doing in here? Like,
It happens.
You know, like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is not bitch. That's just because I look better than you. This is not. It's like,
Yeah.
oh shit. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, it's going down right now.
Yeah,
They're gonna
yeah.
fucking throw down and shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't
Which is
2017.
hard. Which is hard. Do you engage in the conflict? You know what I mean with the tranny?
I just observe.
Yeah. I'm just I
don't know.
I've been in those episodes where you know you're assaulted or you're
Did
sitting-
you hand your business card? Like, look, man, if you need a lawyer, like,
I sense it wasn't that type of interaction, but I could
I don't
be-
have the statement. You'll be speaking to my lawyer. I don't have that. That's the problem.
You're speaking to a lawyer, but no, you're speaking to a lawyer.
Yeah,
it was interesting. No, but Norm's, it's okay.
Yeah. I don't know why. Like it was brought up, and I was like, kind of like, oh damn, I haven't been there in a long time.
Yeah,
But that's probably why. If it was really like, I think it would be one of those things. It's like if I went there and it was really good, I probably would have gone again.
You know what place I recommend for you guys? It's called Family Homestyle Cafe.
Never been
Where's
there.
that?
It's in Redlands.
Redlands.
And if I were you, I would go there.
That's an expensive Uber trip for me.
no.
I don't
Speaking
know.
of
that's
speaking of Redlands, Carolyn's Cafe.
You won't be disappointed.
Carolyn's Cafe. Their breakfast is good, but the best part is they give you coffee cake, and the coffee cake is amazing.
Strongman Pizza. I have to plug them.
Oh, yes.
Mondo Gonzalez is who we went to school
Rubidoux
with.
alumni. Yes.
Yeah, he
Strongman Pizza.
Strongman Pizza. I recommend it.
Who?
I'm Strongman Mondo Gonzalez.
Mondo Gonzalez.
Really?
Yeah. He owns Strongman Pizza. I highly recommend. I have to plug them.
I haven't been
just
there.
because they have great pizza. He's a good
He's
guy.
a avid. He's huge on CrossFit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
figured with a name like that, it's kind of had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Gonzalez is big in CrossFit?
Mondo.
No, the name of the restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, Gonzalez is
Yeah, they're
synonymous,
well- yeah, they're-
synonymous with
with CrossFit. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Silva.
Yeah.
Silva with MMA.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, same thing.
Brazilian
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I as soon as I'm gonna open up a new office. I think probably next year I'll be doing it. I'm planning on it, and so I'm gonna be throwing an opening event, and that's my plan is to have strong
Cater it or
pizza,
something.
cater
Yeah,
it,
dude.
yeah.
Awesome.
Let us know. We'll be there.
I know. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
We celebrate that opening, man.
Yeah.
Speed of Redlands is a great bar there too. The State has some
State.
really good drinks.
I haven't heard
On
of
State Street.
Yes,
Yeah.
the State.
Oh.
They're real. I guess you could say. It's an obvious name. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You're on State
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That just didn't seem like a guess, though. It seemed
Creative.
like it was, yeah.
Creative was the word.
Yeah.
You know where else has a really good beer and drink and food scene is San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
San Diego has a lot.
Rebecca's coming down at the end of the month. We're gonna head down to San Diego. We're going to Ironside Oyster and Lobster restaurant.
Oyster
Really,
sauce.
it's in Little Italy. It's a little bit pricey, but their lobster rolls are
Really?
freaking amazing.
I haven't been
So
there.
amazing.
Lobster rolls.
And there's a bar there called Polite Provisions. Well, it's in North Park. That bar is pretty good
Yeah.
as well too. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like going to bars where they suggest, oh, if you like this, you might want to try this. And
Yeah.
that's a place you might.
All right.
wanna go
I'll
to.
do that. I'm a big seafood fan.
Me too.
Let's-
My wife
Yeah.
does not do seafood, and so anytime.
Oh, it's a bummer.
Yes, it's a
sorry.
disability.
My condolences.
Yeah. I love anything seafood. If somebody says Marisco's to me, I'm there. It doesn't
Dude.
matter.
Dude.
That would-
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what I realized, and I didn't know this until the other day when I drove by. I work right by Mariscolandia.
Oh yeah, down the street off
Yeah.
of McKinley.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
like right down the street from there. Yeah. I work right across the street from the Monster Building.
Yeah.
There's a marisco / sushi restaurant.
Oh yeah,
Near-
Suchingon.
That's
Sushingon.
sacrilegious.
Sushin.
That's sacrilegious.
Dude,
I have
it's
to say.
good, though.
You have to check
bro.
it out. It's by your office actually.
Really?
It's down the street by
Yeah.
your office off of
What's this called?
It's
Sushingon.
Sushingon. Yeah.
Look it up.
right.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
I'm
I heard
plugging
it's pretty
it.
good.
Doing
Yeah.
it.
It has
It's
really good
Friday.
reviews.
I think I'm doing it on Saturday. I think.
There you go.
Sounds
It's
good.
good.
I gotta
It's
try
right down the
this.
street from your office.
You have
With
Mexican,
the train.
Off of Magnolia.
and then
That's
you have
right.
sushi.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I mean, not to change the subject, but any place I go to, it doesn't matter if they have tapatio as their salsa, as their like little
Hot sauce
that they use.
Golden.
Yeah, I'm going back.
Yeah.
I that's a good sign. It's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had the discussion when we were talking about breakfast places, and Edgar
Yeah.
brought up a good point. He's like, if they have freshly squeezed orange juice, then
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
probably a decent place.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess that's the other one of like, if they have tapatio, then it's
Yeah.
probably
Good
pretty
place.
good.
It's the details. It's in the
It's the
details.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That- yeah.
Well, but see, here's the thing: is now we're gonna get really nerdy. If they have something more like Valentina,
Yeah.
or El Tepeyac,
El Tepeyac, yep.
that's where you're like, oh shit, they're serious here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
They don't fuck around.
Yeah, because those are a little bit harder to find, but they're pretty good. They're
Tepeyac.
yeah, dude, El Tepeyac. Have you
Have you had
had that
Tepeyac?
one?
Oh, there's
No.
some good.
Oh,
some good
dude.
chile.
I need to try that.
Ooh, that's in
The Yucatan. Oh no.
Yucateco.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
Yucateco's another good one.
So you a big hot sauce fan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In general, if it's got some heat to it, I'll
Yeah.
go for it,
You
man.
just-
but I'm
yeah.
I'm not a fan of tapatio.
Man, I wish I would have made some wings today.
Not tapatio. I'm sorry, not tapatio. We just said it. But
Yeah.
Tabasco,
Tabasco. Cannot stand it.
The vinegary.
Yeah, it's too much, and I know it's a base for most hot sauces. It has
Tabasco's good with pizza, dude.
You know what's good with pizza, which is weird to most
Eggs?
people, is so my parents, since I was a kid, they've always taken the flaked pepper. You know, when you go to like Shakey's or whatnot, they
Yeah,
add
yeah.
the pepper.
Right.
And then they bring lemons. Limes. Because I know here for Mexicans, limones is either the yellow or the green. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why
it's
I said lemons.
interchangeable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
but limes.
I grew
limes,
up here. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So limes, and then with the flaked pepper, and then you put that on the pizza with lemon, and it's so bomb.
Lime with pizza.
Yeah, try it.
I'll try that. I mean, I like limes. I'm good with limes. So it sounds interesting, but yeah, I'll have to try that.
Yeah, I never tried that.
Yeah. You'll thank me tomorrow.
No, you want to. So if you want to, So if you want to talk about weird food combinations, check this out. We were having hot dogs when I was overseas, and one of the guys I worked with was from Seattle, and he said, have you ever had a hot dog with cream cheese on it?
Interesting.
What?
That
cream cheese and hot dogs.
sounds good, actually.
I was skeptical at first.
Yeah.
It's fucking legit.
Right?
It is pretty damn good.
I gotta try that.
I know.
Yes. If you're a fan of either one, try combining them. I think you'll be probably pretty pleasantly surprised.
Good thing is that I'm a fan of both.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you guys gotta try
Win-win.
Sonoran hot dogs. I mean,
Those are good.
When I was in Tucson,
Those are really good.
so it's bacon wrap, hot dog, and then
I'm
it's
already
got
sold.
Pico, pico de gallo with beans, refried beans on top, and it's bomb.
Yeah.
At first, I was skeptical as well. I was like, "What the fuck?" Another thing.
I think we're going to where we're hungry right now.
I'm hungry too.
We always get head in this direction at some point.
I think an East Coast thing is eating your fries with vinegar.
Okay.
Vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you did you ever have fries when you were in France?
Yeah.
Did you ever do the fries with mayo?
I could not do it.
You know what? I was skeptical about it, and it was actually pretty good. I wouldn't do it with the mayo here. Like the mayo there,
It's different.
It's definitely very different. And that's the thing is people think like, they think like, fries and mayo like the mayo here. No, like it actually was different enough to where it's like, I get it. It makes sense.
It's because they don't know how to do it.
Well, yeah, probably.
That's why
They improvised.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is you go into McDonald's there, and because I was there for a decent amount of time, so you eventually you're gonna walk into a McDonald's, which I probably shouldn't have, but I did.
I forgot who I was listening to. Well, you can continue to sort in a bit, but they're like, why would you go to a different place and then go to like a generic fucking restaurant?
So so I have a counter argument to that.
Okay.
And that is that it's a known quantity, right? So there was an Olympian, I forget who it was, and I think it was one of the track and field athletes, that he went to a different country where they were competing, and all he ate was McDonald's. He ate chicken nuggets because he knew what it was.
He was in shot put.
I don't know.
It could have been McDonald's, and
no. It was like a dude that was like you would never expect it, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, they're athletes. They burn thousands of calories a day doing their training. But that's the thing is,
he didn't place.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need McNuggets and then beat Usain Bolt. That doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that was the reasoning. I guess it's like it's a known quantity. He knew it wasn't going to make him sick.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I guess if you want to be safe, if you're gonna be a little bitch about it, I guess.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
But Mason, you were saying, sorry about that, man.
No, that's fine.
So you walked into their McDonald's.
So yeah, we walked into McDonald's, and I hadn't been in McDonald's since I was there, and so we had just got done with class, and it was. One of the things is we would drink beer because actually beer was incredibly cheap. It was actually the same price or cheaper in most places.
Yeah.
To buy a beer, and a lot of pilsners is what was there, and it was insanely hot. So pilsners actually hit the spot a lot of times because it was refreshing at the.
Oh yeah.
But we walked in McDonald's, and I was thinking I gotta buy a Coke, and so I knew going there that. It was small portions, right? So if you didn't matter, there was no. I don't even think there's a 10-piece nuggets there, but it was. I mean, so anyway, so I was like, all right, I need the largest soda you guys have. I need the largest one, and it basically was this. They're like, all right, yeah, no problem, we got you. And they spoke English. I mean, most people there do.
Most French people do.
So there wasn't like a language barrier here.
Yeah.
And it basically was a small. It was
a kid's meal size.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And they don't have one thing that they don't have is when you go to get a refill, you don't just walk up to a station and refill your drink.
Right.
You have to order it from there, and you go back and you pay for a refill.
Yeah.
And so I got.
Jeez, remember that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Back in the day,
that used to be a thing. Now it's like you go everywhere and everywhere has free refills.
Now you pay $1 for whatever size.
Yeah. I've seen that.
It's even worse. Yeah.
That's one of the fattest fucking people in the
world. Well, that's
like
the
to get fatter. Yeah. We'll do it cheaper.
Yeah. Well, that's
fat.
That's the thing is I've caught myself doing that. Like, fuck. Like I'm gonna get like. If a small's gonna cost me $1 and I get the fucking extra large and it's gonna cost me $1, well, fuck, I may as well, you know. And then you end up drinking the whole lot of it, and you're like, fuck, I really just wanted the small.
Yeah,
I would have been fine with that.
I just recently started just buying just the hamburgers. I've noticed I buy a drink, a soda, whatever, the combo meal. I never end up drinking the soda with it. I've never been a fan of soda. I don't know. Really? Since I was a kid, yeah.
Get some water.
Never been a thing.
Yeah.
It's either,
Well,
water or alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol's better.
The only way I'll drink soda is if it has alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So I switched
Jack
to
and Coke.
I just switched to iced tea for a while, but then I found a lot of places that really shitty iced tea. So that's a tough part.
Yeah. I was incredibly disappointed by the size at the time.
That's what she said.
Yeah. So yeah, for work I travel to the Philippines from time to time, and that is a struggle there too.
Really?
It's like you go and it's like, oh yeah, let me have you ask for a large drink and then you get like,
so
what the fuck is that?
Were there any like special things on the McDonald's menu in France
that they didn't have here?
That was
and I really didn't notice that big of a difference. I did notice that there was a lot more kiosks. So you could go up and order from a person, but the kiosk system was in full effect there.
Skynet's coming.
Yeah.
So when I was traveling through Dubai, there was the chicken Big Mac.
Chicken Big Mac.
Yeah. So it was basically just like the patties from the McChicken, and they made them into a Big Mac. There's actually I had to try it because it's like it sounds it's weird.
In India, like they do mostly chicken.
Well, yeah, because their cows are sacred. Yeah. So there's a chicken Big Mac. What else? I know in the Philippines you can get rice at McDonald's.
Interesting.
And it's funny because it's like in a little triangle and they wrap it in paper. Like it's just.
Hey Brian, did you ever watch what's the movie with the McDonald's movie?
Oh, I know.
The Founder.
The Founder. Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I watched it.
It's a great film.
It is a great movie.
It's crazy.
I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
Especially because it's not steeped in action.
Yeah,
it's a movie that you could just sit there and watch. It moves along. It's a good movie. Yeah. I didn't understand. You don't know how they got there. Obviously, it's a little dramatized to an extent, but
of course.
But it was a great movie. Great movie.
Great film.
Especially at the end when he got screwed because they only had a verbal contract. I'm sure you really enjoyed that part.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
When I said, there's probably nothing wrong with that. I mean, at the time, I don't know. No, obviously it's wrong. But
it's wrong at any time. You gotta have it in writing.
Morality is. I
just found it funny that certain franchise owners were trying to sell fried chicken. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we do burgers and that's it.
Yeah. It's a system, man. It's a system. It's the conveyor belt that was implemented within McDonald's to say, we're gonna provide a product, we're gonna provide the same product, we're gonna drive down costs, and which is great.
But then I mean, and
Henry Ford did that with the automotive.
Yeah.
But then you have it in.
That's what they were talking about when they were in the movie.
Look how like it's the same concept, but it's so much better.
Yeah, which is funny because Subway, the Subway model, has become a big, really implemented. You notice this with like pizza places now.
Chipotle, biology.
Biology. So you run into this situation where it's great. It not only adds to the experience of the restaurant because that's another problem that I think brick and mortar places are having is the experience aspect is really what's driving people coming into their stores. Yeah. So the Subway provides that, even though you're ordering and really all you're telling them, you're placing your order as they're making it, but it's part of the experience. And I'm really interested in that too. Is how these businesses are doing that. They're implementing an experience along, and the Subway model has been able to cater to that.
Yeah,
it's kind of moved into the sushi too with poke bowls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah.
And those places have blown up. I've seen quite a few of those around where I work.
Yeah, a lot are popping up.
Yeah,
I'm not down with the rice and the poke in the same.
No,
what?
I don't know.
Really?
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I know.
Eddie,
okay. That's
come
okay.
on, Eddie.
Is it?
That's
Is
okay.
it?
I think
Okay.
Mason's on the same page as you.
I'm not on the same page, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I think Mason's just saying.
I could do the salad with like
Your opinion is
the
valid.
sushi in it.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
No, it's not.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you go to sushi place, there's rice.
It's the
in
same
their
thing.
Sushi rolls.
It's just deconstructed. It's deconstructed sushi rolls.
Yeah, I guess.
That's basically
I
what it
don't
ends up
know.
being.
I don't know. I like to look pretty. I want it to look pretty.
Well,
No,
I
no,
think,
it's
is it
not
like
bad.
a texture thing or is it like.
Probably the texture thing.
Oh, okay.
That I can understand.
I can
not,
understand that.
Not because from personal experience, but my wife's kind of weird about stuff like that too. Where it's like texture's kind of weird her out. Like even like just.
Well, I can't even
Cleaning up
eat
stuff or-
pie.
What?
I can't
Are you
because the texture
American?
thing.
Are
Are
you
we talking about
American?
shepherd's
That's
pie,
what I
or are
mean.
we talking about other pies too?
Any kind of pie.
What about chicken? What about chicken pot pie?
Yeah.
Oh, I can eat that shit.
All right then. Well then, yeah,
That's a
there you
pie.
go.
That's
It's
a
a pie.
Well, it's like an
You need to
apple
change
pie.
your
I can't eat an
statement.
apple.
See, I
You can
think-
do pie so
See-
long as chicken pot pie.
Yeah, Popeyes.
Yeah.
See, I don't know, dude. See, I go the opposite way there. I think if the choice was between pie and cake, I think cake is highly overrated. I prefer pie.
I don't like cake.
We're
either.
still doing this
I'm not-
podcast.
Huh?
We're still doing it after
Oh,
the
we're
comment.
Yeah.
All right, just checking.
Like you said, we got whiskey still, so
Yeah, I got it.
We're
I'm
Cake's
not.
a new thing. I mean, not only have they've implemented cupcakes, right?
Yeah.
And now they're going like mini cakes and mini bundt cakes and all that
yeah.
stuff, right?
Oh, that place in Temecula, nothing but cakes. You ever had that?
No.
That's here in Riverside. It's
They got
by
one in
my work.
Riverside?
They have one
Yeah,
here?
it's nothing but cakes. Yeah. It's,
Oh, are you
it's,
fucking
it's at the plaza.
God, I wish I didn't know about that.
Oh, now they're just gonna stop by there on his way home now.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
No, I've liked Asian bakeries better than any other bakery.
Well,
just,
they-
just because their pastries they're not as
sweet. Yeah.
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 So I know exactly which ones you're talking. Oh, the 85 degrees.
Like 85 degrees. There's one here locally too.
Right.
University Village. There's an Asian. I want to say it's a Chinese bakery.
Well, 85 degrees is Taiwanese, so
Oh, it's
they-
Taiwanese?
They, might be around the same. If
Might-
it's similar, then
it's
it might
similar.
I gotta try it.
It's
Yeah.
similar.
Never tried it.
I like the berry tails from 85
Oh,
degrees.
God.
The berry tails are so good.
be. You'd like them if it's
Yeah.
it's like a really light kind of bread pastry, but it has cream cheese and blueberry in it,
Oh.
and it's
They're amazing.
pretty
The
good.
cream cheese is a theme.
Yeah,
apparently, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we have been talking about.
Yeah.
cream
Well,
cheese.
you said you like cream cheese, so I figured.
I
yeah,
love
you know.
cream cheese.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not like.
No.
No.
I'll even
No,
I'll
sorry.
even order cream cheese
Can't do
in my
that.
roll. Like
Eddie's fired.
if I'm
I
getting
am
sushi,
fired.
if I'm getting sushi, I'll
Yeah.
ask for
Phila-
cream cheese to be added.
Philadelphia
Oh, yeah.
rolls.
Philadelphia rolls are
yeah.
bomb.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
they're
Philadelphia.
good, but most rolls that if you like them, add cream cheese to it. It's,
Yeah.
Oh,
like
man.
like spicy tuna rolls with cream cheese.
Yeah.
I like spicy tuna.
Spicy
Dude,
tuna rolls are delicious.
Spicy tuna for me, that's the go-to. Like if like it's kind of like if you go to a new place, that's what
Yeah.
you order because if they fuck that up, you don't want
Oh,
anything
yeah.
else.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree with
Because
that.
it's so simple,
Yeah.
right? Like
That and their miso soup. One time I went to a
Yeah.
sushi restaurant. Their miso soup was just rancid. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
is wrong
No,
with this
no.
miso soup?
yeah, and it's such a simple thing, and it's like
is.
if you fuck that up, like I don't want anything else.
I love it when they put jalapeno slices on top of the sushi.
Oh.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
yeah. I think this is devolving into.
I think we're just hungry.
yeah, I
It's
think
gotta-
that's what the problem
I know.
is. Yeah, it
just
might
got
be
the
that
munchies
time.
now.
It might be that time.
It might be that time to wrap
Bucket
this
'em,
up,
man.
guys, and get some food. Are they selling tacos right now down the street?
I don't know.
I don't know, dude. It's not
We'll
even
find
11 o'clock. I think last
we'll
time we got
find
done
it.
around that time. So.
That's all right. We'll find them.
Yeah.
Let's
We'll
go.
find them.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
get some.
Dude, we can
street
throw
tacos.
Like our buddy-
we can throw a rock around this place and freaking hit a taco stand.
Yeah.
I mean that's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing about
True.
being where we
That's
are.
true.
It's a beautiful thing about America. It's cuisine of all different areas.
Hey, dude, my friend moved up to Oregon. He says the Mexican food up there is. But then again, he was in Lake Elsinore,
Yeah.
close
Well, so
to San Diego.
it would be so watered down going so high up there, right?
But he's saying that. Yeah, he's saying that as far as that.
If you go anywhere else,
it's a
man, the-
disgrace.
You know,
Southern California.
So my plans was to move to like Arizona, but not to get into too details. But it looks like I'm moving towards San Diego. But Arizona has some really good Mexican food.
Well, what's in San Diego?
What's in San Diego?
Yeah.
So
Everything's
we're
in
getting
San
into
Diego.
No, I know
details.
that, but for you, what's in San Diego?
We'll get into those details when the time
Okay.
comes.
Oh
When
yeah.
the time comes.
Yeah, all right.
What's his name?
It's Barry.
Yeah,
Oh.
he's generous.
Very generous. All right, guys.
All
Well,
right, man.
Well,
Yeah.
from us here at Whiskey Talk with Three Dudes, man. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you enjoyed this time. And Brian, thank you for
Thank you.
coming
Thank
out.
you.
man.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll have
Thank you.
Brian's information in our website,
Exactly.
on our Facebook Live. I mean, if you need,
Hey, we're on YouTube. We'll post this on YouTube
absolutely
as
as
well.
well. So yeah, man. I mean, Eddie, do you have any closing statements you'd like to say to our listeners, to our viewers?
No, pretty much what I say every week. You know, with go out there, do what you need to do, and just get that shit done.
There you
That's
go.
it.
Get
So,
get her done.
You guys have a good week. We'll see you guys next week.
Absolutely.
That's all I have to say. Larry?
No, I'm good. No, I don't have anything. I should come up with something. Like I should have like something that I think about during the week, and then
yeah.
I always forget.
Tacos. No, just wait.
Second Amendment stuff, probably. I would
No, there
imagine.
you go.
No, I try. I try not to. I talk about that all week, dude. Like I
Yeah.
try not to. I mean, it's important to me. But I try not to bring it on the podcast too often, just because
It should be important to
It can
everybody,
get-
I think.
I think so too.
I mean, there are rights.
The revolution.
Yeah, there's. Yeah. Make frogs not gay again. How about
Yeah.
that?
That's a catchphrase.
And judging by the bottle of
I think we're.
Templeton, right? I think it's a hit.
Halfway.
I
Yeah,
like
that's
it.
good.
I mean, we started off
great.
late on that bottle, so
Yeah.
I'm like I say, it's one of my favorite rye whiskeys that I enjoy. And
good.
as far as for me, for
Good.
my message, I mean, same thing as always. You know, grow, learn, never settle, because you're worth it. Your family's worth it, and you'll be able to help out a lot more people if you grow. You know,
Amen.
don't be selfish and say,
Amen.
"Hey, I'm good where I'm at," because the truth is you're not, because you can be impacting the world.
Or sometimes just give it a try. You never know.
Absolutely, just try it.
Try it.
man.
You might
Just
like
try
it.
If you try it twice, who knows? I don't know.
Dude.
All right, Brian. Any
Brian,
messages
any-
for?
yeah.
Do you have any?
No, I just thank you for letting me be on here, and
No,
I
It's a
appreciate
lot of
it.
fun, man.
It was.
Our
It was
pleasure, man.
good time. Good time.
Good times, guys. Well, we'll catch you guys next week.
Buenas
and
noches.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Good day.
Yes,
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.